Hello, everybody. This is me, Arjit, and I'm joined by my co-host, Serp Kerp,
Are you
and
really live yet?
yes, we are live.
Okay.
And Fritz Imperial, and special guest tonight is Charlemagne. Thanks for coming on, guys. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
I do have to introduce, but by saying when this guy said the original sin of slavery, that's probably one of the most dangerous things I've ever heard. Because I've heard it a number of times, because essentially it conflates being white with having a sin that you can never get rid of. I've when I used to be an evangelical, there were multiple like pastors and whatnot. It's basically said that you have an extra sin if you're white. It's absolutely sickening.
Right. And I have some pictures of Mommy GF up there. Um, that's so we're rooting for her. We're hoping that she'll take over the empire again, and I don't know,
Oh,
torture
is that
degenerates.
Dala?
Charlemagne.
No, that's Yvonne Isard.
Charlemagne.
Oh, okay.
How do you read Moldbug? How do you do you just read it off the website, or did you get the the Amazon PDFs off Kindle?
I just read it off the website. I kind of feel like I should buy the ebooks though, just because I've done so much with it.
Okay.
But the website's fine.
What do you suggest that I read?
I mean, a good place to start if you haven't read any is just the open letter. It is like 350 pages, though. I mean, it's a serious chunk of reading.
This guy needs to say "Wir sind ein Volk." Oh wait, no. Ein Volk, Wir sind ein Volk was the end of East and West Germany. No. Yeah.
I'll put him on in a little bit. I'm just
This guy is evil.
I don't actually have the audio on.
I was interested in Moldbug's ideas. I've never read them, but I see the concept of monarchy is inestablishably unless you do it through kind of like a recreation of the Roman Republic, where you create it by default. A situation where you have a North Korea.
We were talking about this on Twitter. Essentially, we have to create a new aristocracy, and then from that we can have a monarchy.
Yeah, I basically agree with that. Although I don't.
You have to replace the current ruling class with people that aren't, absolutely hostile to the people of this country.
As a third positionist, I support a vanguard party, though.
I
think that the ability to create a new monarchy would be best seen through a vanguard party. This is seen through Syria and through North Korea. It's happened.
Mm-hmm. Thing is, though, I hate political parties and wish they were all destroyed.
Except for one. There can only be one.
This guy on
Are you a Platonist?
No, I'm a convert. I don't know. I'm not sure how that. Sorry, I don't know how. I'm not familiar enough to answer.
Charlemagne, are you a Platonist or Aristotelian or?
I just go by reactionary, man. That's good enough.
Okay, so personally, I'm a Platonist. So I think that once a state takes the form, a higher form of government, regardless of its ideology, it will adhere to the precepts of its actual form of government. So the Soviet Union and the Marxist-Leninist states actually kind of became electoral monarchies, and they started becoming much more both authoritarian but also socially conservative because of this.
I'm going to do a video on horseshoe theory. Let me just actually make a note of that at some point, because I actually have a lot to say on that topic. Like why?
I call the chosen people lizard people, by the way, because
no, you don't call them that. That's what you're just referencing David Icke. It has nothing to do with.
Oh yeah, David Icke's right, and it has nothing to do with the beautiful Jewish people.
Mm-hmm.
I like the position that essentially modern Christians are far more Jewish than the Talmudites that exist now, because we actually listen to what the prophets said.
Well, my understanding is Judaism during the Roman era used to be very evangelical.
Mm-hmm.
Like they used to actively convert people. and they
But yeah, that's how
completely
you got
abandoned
the
that.
that's how you got the Hellenists. Was it the Hellen? Yeah.
Let's see.
Well, wasn't and about a tenth of the Roman Empire Jewish? Or
Yeah, because it was very
something
evangelical.
Oh wow, that high.
I'd assume they also just had a high birth rate.
Mm-hmm. I like
Um,
how atheists said that. Oh well, God existed in like the most, remote part of the world in this horrible Middle Eastern backwater. It's like no, that was part of the Roman Empire and was actually fairly developed.
well, it's where civilization comes from, is that part of the world.
Mm-hmm.
Do you
Anyways,
still hold Zoroaster to be a prophet of God?
yes,
I'll be
I do.
right back.
Hmm. Charlemagne, are you familiar with Spangler or Yaki?
I've read Man and Technics, but that's it from Spangler.
What's your opinion of Man and Technics?
The last couple of pages were really interesting. I need to review it, but it was an enjoyable read. I mean, really short, so
Okay.
definitely worth picking up. It's like 90 pages or something.
Are you interested in the concept of catabolic collapse exposed by John Michael Greer?
I'm not familiar with it.
Okay, so it's related to Tainer. The collapse of complex society. So, as a society enters its decline due to both complexity and the limits of energy, it begins to simplify because complexity in terms of like bureaucracies, but also in terms of like divisions of labor is what gives people wealth and comfort and living space. So when when a civilization, a society, or a state begins to goes over its peak due to too much complexity for its industrial or energy or economic carrying capacity, it'll start declining in complexity. This will ultimately lead to its collapse. Essentially, the United States and its empire has entered catabolic decline as peak energy declines, along with G.
So
And
why does the simplification lead to collapse, though?
the simplification is the decline of the society. So simplification is in like the Roman Empire. So the Roman Empire had it had a capitalist economy and a proto-industrial economy, right? Or like Song China had but Song China was ultimately conquered. So during the actual collapse of the Roman Empire, and then prior to this, during the second the crisis of the third century, you started to see feudalism develop. In a feudal society is a much simpler society than a capitalist society. It collapses because you have people trying to maintain their wealth, their class. And
It's
there's
also
conflict as
stable.
it collapses. What?
Feudalism is also vastly more stable, largely because it's a very decentralized form of government.
Yes, but it's much simpler.
Guys, I don't mean to interrupt. We can definitely have another stream where maybe I'll have Serp and Charlemagne on, and we can talk about reactionary philosophy. I just want to kind of cover the debates tonight, but we can definitely have another stream about that.
Yeah, makes sense.
Okay.
I'm not trying to like.
Yeah, I watched your channel before, and I was kind of interested in it. So
No,
Yeah,
like
sounds
there's
like you
no
have some
issue. We
interesting
can't have another time. The people came here to watch.
okay. I don't know. I just thought this was some pre-game.
Oh yeah, no, I know. I just wanted to take a second. So, who do you think won last night?
Bullock actually.
Really?
I'm not just saying that because he's my governor. I think that he was the most well presented. I think in terms of exposure, Sanders won though.
Is he kind of a conservative Democrat?
Yeah, but he's from Montana.
No, that's what I mean.
So that means he's going to be conservative by
Right.
definition.
Mhm.
But part of the thing is he had like he's like very right wing on guns, and I told you during the thing he will never have any future in state politics, even endorsing people. And he's starting to push back against gun rights here. If he goes all the way to where they want to be on gun rights, he will have no future in Montana. Because he's term limited now, so he could still run for senator. Say if Daines gets defeated, he could somehow run for senator against Daines or something, because we have a Democratic senator and a Republican senator, and Daines is the Republican one.
Mm-hmm.
Right after he's term limited, if he goes hard against guns, even though he's term limited, he'll prevent his ability to run for senator. So he has to be very right wing on guns. The thing about him is that Montana tends to be very libertarian and very environmentalist. I'm not libertarian, but I've said pretty much environmentalist stuff I've started to go towards that direction. So Montanans will often, yeah. For instance, I guess recently put the spiritual flag of the United States, the gay flag, above the American flag, and a lot of veterans have been angry about that.
Okay, I'm gonna turn the audio on now. So people in the chat, just let me know how the balance is.
Plateaued. Now the question is, can she build again?
Does she use an attack to try to build more, or does she have a different strategy? And does he
I don't know. I
maybe
think
attack her?
I kind of want to watch Nick Fuentes' take on this,
if she challenges
because
him
he
again,
has
but I
like
think,
the most
the
bizarre
target is
takes on
clearly
these
Biden's
debates.
back tonight, and what he has
I've
to
been
do is
really
fight
enjoying
back,
his content lately.
talk about his politics,
Is it
and then
bad
go
that I
big.
think Styx
Let's go big
Hexenhammer is
against
very
Donald Trump
good for
and show
partisan
that's why a
politics,
majority
even
of
if I
Democratic
disagree
voters
with a lot
believe
of
he's
his
the one who can
views,
beat
like
Donald Trump.
larger
He has to
views,
prove it again
like his
tonight
metaphysics.
because he didn't prove it
No,
in the
I mean,
last
he was
debate,
really
so
good
he's
during
got
the
to do
previous election cycle.
If last night was
The
Elizabeth
guy
Warren
knows what
trying
he's
to
talking
show
about in
that
terms
she
of
is a
the
leader
American
beyond
political
just having
system.
plans, that she has
Yeah,
energy,
I
that she has
also,
vitality.
he's the only person who
Joe
talks
Biden's gotta
about
do the same
Ebola
thing. I mean, it's
or
not just about plans, it's showing
global
you're
health
the one to take
concerns,
this on.
really.
Yeah, well, I think
He's
he
the only
started
person
off
who
that
covers
way. He is the
Ebola.
front
I
runner.
think
Now
that
he has
it's
to prove that
quite
he should be
possible
the
Ebola
front
could
runner.
turn into
And I think you're going
a
to hear
plague this
more about
century.
Trump in this
Interesting.
debate,
I haven't
because you
watched
have
Styx in a
every
long
I
time.
hope,
candidate
I
of color on
freaking
this
hope it
stage
does.
race will clearly come up.
Yeah, I
Given
try to
what we've been
follow
through
him
in the
because
last few
last
weeks and
time
the
with
direction
Ebola,
Trump
the
has
last
taken,
Ebola outbreak,
I
which
would think
apparently
that's an
became
opportunity
famous,
for Biden
and now we have
perhaps
one
some
that's just
others
slightly
to
smaller and
step up
nobody's
and
even
talk about
talking
the
about it
moment
at
in which
all.
we're in.
He keeps up the news on that pretty good. I really appreciate that from him.
He just, as I've said, he physically repels me to the point I can't
Yeah, I
really watch it.
understand that. I don't know, I kind of want to get into gardening more, so I gotta get some
Oh yeah,
crops.
I love gardening.
Yeah, I don't
That's an insight.
I don't
I had
really
an
have
idea
the
for like a future society or like a science fiction sort of empire wherein one of the laws is every citizen except for or every resident except for farmers is required to have some form of garden.
Shouldn't you just be tough?
I mean, you don't even need to like own property to do some gardening. Like, you can just have a few potted plants and stuff if you live in an apartment or whatever. I used to do that.
Yeah, I'm gonna have a new living situation pretty soon, so we'll see.
Punch down, look smaller rather than bigger.
I don't have any
but still
audio
be
on this
tough.
stupid
It's a
CNN
balancing
feed
act.
But
anymore.
his benefit this time is that he kind of.
I'm looking. I don't know if I'm look. This one should be a freak show. Like last night's was kind of boring. This one they have like they have Kamala Harris and Joe Biden, so this should be way more of a freak show. I think
Hey,
Joe
is
is
it
getting
okay
it.
if I turn you guys down to listen to the debate when it happens?
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah, I might just comment in real time. Sorry if I'm out of sync with you guys in my comments.
Okay, that's
This
fine.
is why I should be your leader, because I have a better plan on healthcare. Let me explain this to you. And I think that will be through Harris, but the target is as much Warren and Sanders.
All right, it is time. We're going to see you
Okay.
all right
I'm
back
gonna
here
turn
for
this
post-debate
up.
coverage.
This is
including
American
analysis,
Idol.
of course, and interviews with the candidates of the CNN Democratic debate.
I
Round
wish I
two,
was watching
live from
American Idol
Detroit,
instead of this.
starts right now.
I thought that the last time the second debate was very, very entertaining, to be honest.
A pivotal point in the race for the presidency.
10 candidates, each with a chance to
I
alter
think
the
last
course
time
of
the
this
second one was
primary
spicy, especially with Kamala Harris in there.
Well,
I streamed it last time and Arjun was on my stream. But yeah, I guess I'll get more subs from Arjun's channel, to be honest, since he's 8 times bigger than me. So maybe it's better to have it on his channel.
I know predators, and we have a predator
senator living in the White House.
How try? Okay, who's the most try hard? Cory Booker, or well, no one could be more try hard than Cory Booker.
Cory Booker's the most try hard, and then the governor or the senator from New York, the woman one that has like platinum blonde dye.
Kamala Harris doesn't even look black, like at all.
I think
Well,
she
she
probably
uses contours to make herself look black. She's probably only a quarter African.
For two candidates just beyond center stage,
If
opportunity and enterprise. Former House
Is it bad? I think Castro is by far the most intelligent.
No, he is.
And entrepreneur Andrew Yang.
Yes! Yang gang!
The fiercely focused, betting their campaigns
I wonder
on a
if
defining
he's actually
issue.
going to talk this time.
For Senator Michael Bennet,
This guy,
breaking
this
gridlock.
announcer guy sounds like, or the narrator sounds like the
For Governor
Honest
Jay
Trailers
Inslee,
guy.
The climate crisis.
We need to stand up to defeat climate change.
For Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard, ending wars.
Most important responsibility that
God.
the president has is to serve.
I hope
as
that man
commander-in-chief.
burns.
And
Sorry,
two
but
New Yorkers.
oh,
Mayor
she.
Bill de
Yeah.
Blasio.
I
As a
keep
New Yorker,
forgetting the
Gillibrand is
Blasio.
extremely try hard.
Kirsten Gillibrand.
I'm from upstate New York. I fucking hate those people so much.
Now, the stage is set for candidates to take on hot button issues.
We need to stop playing games with people who are seeking asylum.
I will ban
This
the
night.
importation of assault weapons. Done.
Their party
Who will win?
platform and
2
the
minutes.
course of
No.
American history.
Now it is our turn.
We choose hope over fear. We are the United States of America.
They're saying please turn up the volume on the. On
Yep,
CNN.
I turned it up. We'll see if that's okay. Give me them guns. Kamikaze Harris. I haven't heard that one. That's not a bad
An
name.
enthusiastic audience at the historic Fox Theater in downtown
Biden will
Detroit,
make
Michigan.
anime
Welcome
real,
to
but
our
only
viewers in the
NTR.
United States and
Boogie,
around
you're on
the world.
fire tonight. That's
Watching
the
us
comment
on
of the night.
CNN International, CNN en Espanol.
I really like how
CNN.com,
yesterday they
and listening
inadvertently
on
said they want to turn
Sirius
America
XM and
into
the
Detroit.
Westwood One radio network.
Yeah.
This is
Because one of the
CNN
lies that they keep saying
Democratic
is that Detroit is being
presidential debate, and a
rebuilt. But
special
I remember
welcome
Stephen
to
Crowder
the
just a
US
couple years ago.
military members,
He disproved it by just like
diplomatic corps,
he
and
drove a
their
minute and a half
serving
outside of
overseas
downtown, and it just turned
watching
into
on the
like
American
well,
Forces
just turned into
Network.
rural areas.
I
of
thought it
Montana.
was being
Like,
gentrified.
And State of the Union, along with CNN's chief political correspondent Dana Bash
that's a
and
misdemeanor?
Don Lemon, anchor of CNN Tonight.
The 20 Democratic presidential candidates were divided into 2 groups by random draw earlier this month. The first 10 appeared
Do you
last
think
night.
Yang
Now
will
it's
speak more
time
than 2
for the
minutes this
second
time?
10.
Please
Probably
welcome
not.
from
He's gonna win.
Delaware, former Vice President
Biden?
Joe
Biden's
Biden.
fucked.
No, Yang's gonna win. What the fuck are you talking about?
Oh,
Biden
Biden
literally
wins.
looks like Frankenstein monster. Holy shit!
What's that weird salute?
What?
From
What the fuck
California,
is wrong with that
Senator
man?
Kamala Harris.
It's so weird.
Notice how Kamala Harris has the second after Biden.
Yeah.
She's groping him.
Oh my god.
Cory Booker is kind of like a
From New
clown.
Jersey, Senator Cory Booker.
Oh yeah, he's one of the Spanish speakers, right?
Yeah.
I don't think anyone could be more tryhard than Cory Booker.
From New York, businessman Andrew Yang.
Yo!
Yeah.
Can I get a Yang gang in the chat?
I actually saw a Yang Gang sticker today.
Secretary of Housing and Urban Development.
Like I already
Castro.
doxed myself basically. There's so little people in this state. And if you're from this state, you probably know who I am.
Waifu candidate.
Anyway,
From Hawaii, Congresswoman
so I saw a Yang 2020 sticker on a car, and the guy also had a Christian fish, like, distorted to be Cthulhu on his car. I should have just like honked at the guy and talked to him, but I was at work.
This woman's insufferable.
Who? Who the hell is this?
Kristen Gillibrand.
From Washington
Oh no,
State,
yeah,
Governor
I'm
Jay
from upstate New York.
Inslee.
Like, those people are oppressors. We need to rise up.
Yeah, that's important.
Who's that
There are
tool?
Confederate flags near where I live. We fucking hate New York City. He is Satan to us. Well, no, Andrew Cuomo is Satan. This guy is. He's the little Satan. He's the Israel.
Do you think that they should just break off the city of New York
Ladies
to
and gentlemen,
liberate
the
New Jersey
Democratic
and New
candidates for
York?
president of
Yeah,
the United States.
everything outside of can't remember which county it is, should just break off and become its own state. We would essentially just be a tourist industrial New England state. That would probably be at the very least purple.
Look at how Tulsi Gabbard's dressed. Like, why doesn't she just wear a hotter outfit? I don't understand.
Now please rise for the
These are the
presentation
only
of callers
veteran
from the
Democrats.
James Europe
That's-
VFW Post 2230.
Wait,
I guess I live in
District 4
Montana,
Honor
so
Guard.
Standing
Please
for the
remain
national
standing
anthem.
for our
That's
national
Yes,
anthem,
blue dogs are a
performed
thing
by
in New York.
Grammy and Tony Award-winning singer Dee Dee Bridgewater, who was raised.
It's so
in
weird to
Fletcher.
see
This guy
like
does not
blue.
look like he would ever vote
Honor
Democrat.
Guard.
It's,
He looks too based.
sorry, I'm gonna be Nazgul right now, but because you had Steve Bullock on, so where I live, blue dog Democrats, including my parents, are a real thing, and they're usually extremely pro-union, and they're usually civic nationalists. So it's something I'm pretty intimately familiar with. And there's a lot of veterans that actually are like purple.
Oh my god.
Oh, what?
You should just, Charlemagne,
Ah!
take this and just talk
It's a
about
Disney
this
villain.
woman.
What
If
the?
she was a
should just talk
gentrification,
about
I
this
would feel so
woman.
horrible. Maybe this is a trans person? I think she has to identify as something.
Well, they definitely didn't pick her on accident.
She's the one who's going to be the next Ariel in the Little Mermaid adaptation.
Somebody said she looks like a minion.
She looks like a turtle.
That's actually well called.
Oh my god.
Is it bad that
Joe Biden-
Kamala Harris?
Cory
is it bad that
Booker
Kamala
looks
Harris
like
is
he's on
makeup to
drugs.
Make her look black. Makes her look.
Joe
Like her
Biden is
makeup to make her
fucking
look
hard.
black
Look at him.
makes her look
He looks like
older.
he's having a heart attack.
Cory Booker is so obviously on drugs.
Or
She's not even doing a good job singing.
whatever.
That our flag was still there. Oh, say
I'm still
I feel
pissed
bad for
that they
the gay
changed
man. I
the
feel bad for the
Canadian
gay man that
national
she stole
anthem.
those glasses from.
Trudeau changed our national anthem to get rid of it all by
Yeah.
his son's command.
Now it's all of us command.
Yeah, and all of the brave.
I miss Hail Columbia. That should have been our national anthem.
America the Beautiful would be such a fucking cheesy national anthem, but it would be awesome.
I think Hail Columbia is far superior to.
Hail Columbia.
Isn't Hail Columbia made into the national anthem?
My ideal
The
national anthem
bottom?
would just be
I
Ave
think it
Maria.
is, yeah.
Ave Maria for 30
The debate
minutes.
will
That's our
begin
national
right after
anthem
this
now.
short break.
Oh, we have to sit
When
through a
we
shitty
rebuild-
break. They're gonna be showing
when
us
we
some fucking
rebuild-
pause ads.
What the
When we
fuck?
rebuild the Holy Roman Empire in America. Because think about it, who are the two biggest ethnic groups in the HRE? Italians and Germans. Who are some of the two of the biggest European ethnic groups in America? Italians, Germans. Think about it.
Hey!
Yes.
Ireland forever. We're going to retake it. We're gonna push the Packies and the Protestants out.
Mm-hmm.
Brown
I think-
Isria Elite says he didn't change the French version of the national anthem. Quebec gang rise up.
There is actually there is a religious verse of the national anthem of France, but still, as good as La Marseillaise is, it's written by a bunch of dirty Republicans.
I find it interesting that the new Russian national anthem does actually mention God in it.
You know that I find it interesting that the new Russian national anthem is the hymn of the Soviet Union, but new lyric.
Yeah, but they did. I just was surprised they added God in.
That feeling Gorbachev is the worst leader of the 20th century.
I still find it fascinating that he outlived both Reagan and Thatcher.
Not really. If you read about his personal life, when
he was in the Pizza Hut commercials.
No, but he took care of himself pretty good.
Gorbachev?
Yeah, like he'd work to get his wife was like a doctorate of philosophy and sociology. Like he's far more educated. Well, that goes part about being a vanguard party, but he's extremely educated, and he took steps to lose weight, and he got a master's degree when he was in office as a governor in his district.
So
I'll be back. I get more beer.
So I'm just wondering, what are they doing at the debate right now while the break is on? Are they just standing at their podiums awkwardly silent? They're all just stock silent, staring at the audience, just...
No, I've been to Canadian Idol a couple times back when that used to be a thing, and in the commercial breaks, there's normally a secondary host who would come on and talk, or they do
Here we go.
Oh, okay. Mine's just a minute behind. Someone posts and says Gorbachev gains.
I'm just waiting for the black guy to say it's a no from me, dog.
A quick review of the ground rules that your campaigns agreed to earlier this month to try to ensure a fair debate. As moderators, we will attempt to guide the discussion. You will each receive 1 minute to answer questions,
how long
30 seconds for responses and rebuttals, and
how
15 additional seconds if a moderator asks for a clarification.
I'm Canadian, the other guys are American.
Please respect them and please refrain from interrupting other candidates during their
fan.
A candidate infringing on another candidate's time will have his or her time reduced. We again remind our audience inside the Fox Theater to try to remain silent when candidates are actively debating.
I don't think debate should be in front of audiences. It actually irritates me because the audience is always shout down.
Let's start with opening statements. You will each receive 1 minute.
So it's it's an allegory for how the political system works.
To the working people of America, tonight I bring you a message.
This guy's such a fucking freak show.
Was this I Have a Black Son?
I know from personal experience it can be done.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Mayor of the nation's largest
Let's see if he brings up his black son.
I set us on a path of bold change. They said it couldn't be done.
In an open marriage with a lesbian
Isn't crime increasing drastically now?
Yeah, because he's dismantling everything.
$15 an hour. Yes, it can be done. Now, tonight, we have to get to the heart.
This is how much I hate New York City. Anytime there's a Godzilla movie, I know how terrible the late '90s Godzilla movie was. I was rooting for monsters.
It's not terrible.
Fucking ruined that city.
Godzilla.
Yeah, but still, I absolutely despise Roland Emmerich. I hate that man. I hate him.
You know he had a life-size statue. He has a life-size statue of John Paul II taking a dump on a toilet with a newspaper that says John Paul II is dead. He's smoking like goddess
Oh boy.
We will even
I didn't know it was that
we
bad.
will tax the hell out of the wealthy.
Oh wait, people are yelling.
To make this a fairer country and to make sure it's
Someone
a country
base
that
was
puts
yelling.
working people first.
Thank you, Mayor de
This guy
Blasio.
looks so weird.
Senator Michael Bennett.
Notice how many people are from Colorado.
I saw one of those Trump signs that says, America, love it or leave it.
And I'm going to leave it.
And it was on the outside of a
about
church.
Trump already.
Well, this is
love
gonna
America.
be. This is gonna be a 2-hour.
This is like the lowest energy guy.
Before coming to the Senate,
he's about to go.
I ran a large urban
He's the
school
fucking
district
Fred
where
Thompson
most
of
the
the
kids live in
Democratic Party.
poverty.
I still see
Those
I
kids
still
have
see people with
exactly the
Fred
same
Thompson
hopes
bumper stickers.
that I had.
Yeah.
Their parents have exactly
Here
the
you see a
same
lot
hopes
of
for
people
them
that still have wrong
that my parents had for me.
I looks like Chad is complaining that
and
the
that
volume
Susan and I had
Okay, I'll turn it
for
up.
our 3 children. But for the last 3 years, we've been consumed by a president who frankly doesn't give a damn about your kids.
This is literally like
Montana is a terrible, horrible state to
Mr.
live in,
President,
and no one should go there ever.
Kids belong in classrooms, not
Ever.
cages.
Nobody ever go to Montana. Never ever.
Wow,
done
that was
And
the fucking
they
least
deserve something
charismatic
better
thing
than a
I've
bully in
ever
the White
heard.
House. Let's end this
That's
three-ring
cool.
circus
He
in
sounds a little
Washington.
like Jordan Peterson.
And let's make this election about reclaiming
Except
our
even
future
less charismatic.
for our kids and our democracy. Empty promises don't beat Donald Trump. I can't.
This guy's discount Rudy Giuliani.
Governor Jay Inslee.
He looks like him.
Good evening.
Was this guy in
I'm
the
Jay
last one?
Inslee. I am running for
I don't remember
president
him.
because the
Like, we
people
need
in
another
this
person to
room
round this
and the
out.
Democrats watching tonight are the last best hope for humanity on
Destroy
this
the
planet.
economy.
If we make defeating the climate crisis
We've been too late to
top
fix
priority
climate
of the
change
United
for the
States,
past 10 years.
we will have
Based
a
in
fighting
John
chance
Michael Brewer
to
pills.
save ourselves and our children's future. It has to be our top priority. My plan is one of national
Nobody talks
mobilization,
about how unclean it is, though, to
quickly
make solar
bringing
panels and wind
100%
turbines.
clean energy to Americans, creating
Guys in the
8
chat,
billion
is the
good
audio balance better
union
now? I
jobs.
turned
This is a
them
big,
up a fair amount.
bold, ambitious plan for clean energy for a big, bold, ambitious nation. Middle
Kill
ground
coal miners.
approaches
Kill
are
coal
not enough.
miners.
We must confront the fossil fuel
Don't you ever
industry.
fucking say
I've been
that
working
ever.
on this for 25 years, and now we know this. We are at a tipping point, and whether we shrink
None
from
of
this
these
challenge
people, like, these
or
are the
rise
least
to it
charismatic people
is
I've
the
ever heard
vital
in my life.
question of our time. We Democrats believe we can still do big
Yang
things
is
in this
like
nation.
horrible.
We can defeat the climate crisis. Let's
Yeah,
get
it's
to
really
work.
sad. Such a shame.
Senator Kirsten Gillibrand.
Yeah, we're sorry about that.
My
We started
grandmother
the
taught
women's
me
rights
that
movement.
nothing's
It's
impossible.
It's fucking shameful.
She spent 2
my
generations
mom
organizing
started
women in
it.
upstate New York.
Is she Granny
My mother
GF?
taught me nothing's impossible.
No.
She was one of
She's
only 3
classic
women in her
social
law school
media.
class
Okay.
and worked with gay couples for basic rights.
Oh,
If you want to get something done, just tell me it's impossible. As a freshman senator, I was told you couldn't
you're
repeal
not-
Don't
Like
Ask,
how
Don't Tell.
don't
Even
ask,
members
don't
of my
tell
own
is
party
like
told me it
extreme
wasn't
right-wing
convenient.
now.
Yes.
When are civil rights
Well,
ever
imagine
convenient?
being trying to go
We stood
to
up to
any
the Pentagon and we got it done.
Sort of,
Not impossible.
Congress
10
or
years
any
ago,
Republican
I was
beating out
told
saying, yeah,
we
I
couldn't
don't
pass
believe in
health
gay
care for our
marriage. They will say
9/11
you're
first
fucking
responders,
racist.
those heroes who raced up
Yep.
the towers when others were coming down.
I'm so fucking
Even when
tired of the
Congress
9/11
turned back on
first
them, we kept
responders
fighting.
being
Just last
referenced
week,
in
we made the
every
9/11 health bill
single
permanent.
fucking speech. I'm sorry. It just
9/11.
irritates me.
Yeah. It's like the Family Guy
Beating
joke.
Donald
Didn't
Trump
they give
is
infinite
definitely
health
not
care for
impossible.
all kinds of 9/11
We need a nominee
I
who
think
will take
so,
on
yeah.
the big fights and win.
Shut up.
We
Like
need
that,
a nominee
that I
who
don't.
doesn't know the
I
meaning
actually
of impossible.
Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard.
I love our country. It's why I enlisted after 9/11. Why I've served as a soldier for over 16 years, deployed twice to the Middle East, and serve in
Lincoln
Congress
Rockwell
now
was
for
one of
almost
them.
7 years.
Shut the fuck up.
I know what patriotism is, and I've known many great
Fine, Huey
patriots
Long.
throughout my life. And let me tell you this, Donald Trump is not behaving like a patriot.
Uh-oh.
As president, I will bring this spirit of real patriotism to the White House, serving the interests of all Americans, not just the
Going off
rich
script.
and
Kill her,
powerful.
kill her.
I'll fight for our rights
gang
and
rise up.
freedoms of all Americans, upholding these principles in our Constitution upon which our country was founded, fighting for justice and equality for all, fighting for every single American, regardless of race or religion, as we strive towards that more perfect union. And as president,
That's
I'll
kinda
bring this
base.
unifying spirit of love for country and the soldiers' values of service above self to the White
Hola.
House, truly leading a government of, by, and for the people.
Secretary Julian Castro.
This guy.
Thank you, Dana, and good evening.
He's the most
You know, just a few days ago, we were reminded and inspired by our fellow Americans in Puerto Rico that public
What
service
families?
is not fundamentally about any
These
of
people
us.
don't believe in the family.
It's about you and your family. I want you to know that if I'm elected president, that I will work hard every single day
Fritz,
so that you
that's
and your
not
family
true.
can have good health care when you
During
need it,
Democratic
so that your
debates
children and
and
grandchildren
Republican
can get a good
debates,
education, so that
there
they
are
can reach their
only
dreams,
middle-class
and that
Americans.
you can have good job opportunities, whether you live here in a big city like Detroit or in a small town in our country. I know we have a wonderful,
explains
special
it.
nation, but that too many people are struggling.
Can we
And
just
I know
like
what that's
eject
like
Puerto
too.
Rico? I don't want it.
I grew up
Or
with a
just,
single mom
or just officially name it
in a
as a
poor
colony.
neighborhood.
Yeah.
But like many of you,
Give it back
I
to
don't want to
slavery.
make America
Commonwealth.
anything again. I don't want us to go backward. We're not going
I think I was
back
about
to
to
the
say make it
past.
great
We're
again.
not going back where we came from. We're going to move forward. We're going to make America better than it's ever been in the years to come. Let's do that together.
To be fair, Puerto Rico has been.
Shut up.
If you've heard anything about me and my campaign, you've heard that someone is running for president who wants to give every American $1,000 a month.
Thomas
I
Paine
know this may
sucks,
sound
though.
like a
He's
gimmick, but
fucking
this is a
evil.
deeply
He's fucking
American
awful.
idea, from Thomas Paine to Martin Luther King to today. Let me tell you why we need to do it and how we pay for it. Why do we need to do it? We already automated away millions of manufacturing jobs, and chances are your job could be next. If you don't believe me, just ask an auto worker here in Detroit. How do we pay for it? Raise your hand in the crowd if you've seen stores closing where you live. It is not just you. Amazon is closing 30% of America's stores and malls and paying zero in taxes while doing it. We need to do the opposite of much of what we're doing right
rising
now.
up.
And the opposite of Donald Trump is an Asian man who likes math.
Or should have played the gong
So
sound.
let me share the math. $1,000 a month for every
I do
adult
love
would
his
be
Asian jokes.
$461 million every month right here in Detroit alone. The automation of our jobs is a central challenge facing us today. It is why Donald Trump is our president, and any politician not addressing it is failing the American people.
Thank you, Dana. Last week, the President of the United States attacked an American city, calling it a disgusting,
What are they chanting? What are they saying?
rat-infested, rodent mess. We need a nation that understands that these tired, old language,
Well, that's embarrassing.
Are they saying Black Lives Matter?
I think they're saying White Lives Matter.
Stand by, Senator.
I will stand by.
Oh my god, it's fucking woke.
Wait, did people say White Lives Matter?
Are they actually saying White Lives Matter?
I don't know. I can't. I'm gonna have to re-listen to that.
Please continue, Senator.
Thank you very much.
Hong Kong
Donald Trump from
protesters have
Charleston
flooded the
to
building.
Baltimore to even
They're
the
now
border
putting the British
is
flag
using the
back on
tired
the
old
stage.
language of demagogues, of fearmongers, of
No, you
racists
don't,
to try to
faggot. I
divide
know
our
I am.
country against itself. We know who Donald Trump
Oh, apparently
is,
said Senator
but in
get
this
down.
election, the question
Oh.
is, who are we
What does it even mean?
as a people?
I don't know.
We have serious problems in
His
America.
eyes are scanning.
We have deep wounds and seriously, deeply rooted challenges. We desperately need to heal as a nation and move
What the
forward.
fuck is he talking about?
Because we know in this
Talking
country
about-
fulfill your our fates are united, that we have a common destiny. The
He's talking
call
about
of this
generic
election is the call to
political
unite
gibberish.
in common cause and common purpose. That's how we will beat Donald Trump. That's how I
How?
will beat Donald Trump.
Yeah, he didn't say.
And as your president, that's
He literally
how
said
I
nothing.
will govern and move us forward together.
Senator Kamala Harris.
Uh-oh.
This is an inflection moment in the history of our country. I think we all know.
Am I black?
This is a moment in time that is requiring us each as individuals and collectively to look in a mirror and ask a question. That question being, who are we?
Who's she talking about?
And I think most of us know that part of the answer to that question
The
is
Argent?
we are better
What?
than this.
Can you pull up a
So
picture
this
of
then
Kamala
becomes a
Harris's
moment
younger sister
that we
and
must
show
fight
how
for the
mean
best
she looks?
of who we are.
Okay, sure.
And fight, of course, we will. And this is not a new fight for us as Americans. We have always been prepared to fight for our ideals. We have always been a nation that fights for the best of who we are. And I'll tell you, I come from fighters. My parents met when they were active in the civil
My
rights movement. My
parents.
sister Maya and I joke, we grew up surrounded by a bunch of adults who spent
She
full time
looks
marching and shouting
extremely
about this thing called
looks
justice. And I
very,
am
very
prepared
low
to
black.
march with you, to fight with you for the best of who we are, and to successfully prosecute the case of 4 more years of Donald Trump.
You can tell that she hasn't straightened her hair and it's naturally straight.
Vice President Joe Biden.
Tonight, I think Democrats are expecting some engagement.
Because if anybody knows about
And I
soul,
expect we'll
it's
get
this
it.
Joe Biden.
I'm running for president to restore the soul of this country. You know, we have a president, as everybody's acknowledged here, every day is ripping at the social fabric of this country.
Yeah, she just
But
looks like an
no one
Indian.
man has the capacity to rip that apart. It's too strong. We're
Do you
too
post her
good.
up there? Yeah.
Just look at
So
this stage.
Kamala Harris
Made of
wears
very diverse
extremely
people,
heavy
diverse
makeup
background. Went on
to
be
make herself
mayors,
look black.
senators, governors, congresswomen, members of the cabinet.
Why?
and yes, even
How?
Vice President.
Wow.
Mr. President,
Why are
this
homogenous
is America.
communities have lower crime
And
rates?
we are strong
Why aren't we
and
like
great
Japan
because of this
anymore?
diversity, Mr. President. Not in spite of it, Mr. President. So, Mr. President, let's get something straight. We love it. We are not leaving it. We are here to stay, and we're certainly not
Don't
going to leave
touch
it to
my
you.
soul.
Biden wants your soul.
Thank you, Vice President Biden.
This is gonna be a
I wanna start
fucking
the debate
slog.
with one of the top priorities for
I think they're
Democratic
going
voters,
to
and that
attack
is
Biden
health
the
care.
entire show.
Senator Harris, this
That
week
would at
you
least be
released
entertaining.
a new health care plan.
Sir,
which
every
will
time you
preserve
start
private
talking, we can
insurance
hear
and
the debate in the
take 10 years
background.
to phase in.
Are you
Okay,
happy?
I'll
Do you have
put
headphones
Vice
on?
President Biden's campaign
Please put
calls
headphones
your
on.
plan, quote, a have it every which way approach, and says it's just part of a confusing pattern of equivocating about your health care stance. What do you say to that?
Well, they're probably confused because they've not read it. But the reality is that I have been spending time in this campaign listening to American families, listening to experts, listening to healthcare providers. And what I came away with is a very clear understanding that I needed to create a plan that was responsive to the needs of the American people, responsive to their needs, understanding that insurance companies have been jacking up the prices for far too long, that American families have to be held down by
What is
deductibles
this
and
plan,
co-pays
though?
and premiums that can cause them bankruptcy. I listened to the American families who said 4 years is just not enough to transition into this new plan, so I devised a plan where it's going to be 10 years of a transition. I listened to American families who said, I want an option that will be under your Medicare system that allows a private plan. So I designed a plan where, yes,
So basically an
responsive
even
to the
worse
needs of
version of what we
American
have.
families,
What the
there will
fuck
be
is
a
she
public
talking
plan
about?
under
Like-
my plan for Medicare and a private plan.
None
under
of
my
these
plan for
people can
Medicare.
speak in
Because the
complete
bottom line is
sentences.
this. We must agree that access to health care
Their AI
must be a
programming
right
isn't that
and not
good.
just
It's
a
still
privilege of those who can afford
can
it. And
tell
in
by her
America
sister
today,
that she's
far
not
too
black.
many people, in
Look
fact,
below
30
her,
million people
Thank you,
are
Senator.
going without access to health care.
Thank you, Senator Harris. Vice President Biden, your response.
Yeah, it's pretty clear.
Well, my response is that the senators had several plans so far. And anytime someone tells you you're going to get something good in 10 years, you should wonder why it takes 10 years. If you notice, there's no talk about the fact that the plan in 10 years will cost $3 trillion. You will lose
Go
your
fuck yourself.
employer-based insurance. And in fact, you know, this is the single most important issue facing the public. And to be very blunt and to be very straightforward, you can't beat President Trump with double talk on this plan.
What double
Your response,
talk?
Senator Harris?
There is no
Absolutely.
plan.
Unfortunately, Vice
What
President
he's
Biden
saying
is
is
simply
that you
inaccurate
got to
in what you're
get behind
describing.
Obama's
The
achievements.
reality is that our plan
okay.
will bring health care to
This
all
idiot gets
can't-
excited over
under
this
a
health
You
Medicare
can't
for
be
all system.
against
Our
Obama
plan will
from
allow
the
people
left.
to
You
start
have to be
signing up.
Unfortunately, we
on
can't
that
kill them
first
all,
day.
so that's why they're being
Babies will
born.
be born into our plan, and right now 4 million babies almost are born every day in America, or every year in America. Under our plan, we will ensure
We will ensure that
everyone
only
has
half a
access to
million will
healthcare.
be.
Your plan, by contrast, leaves out almost 10 million Americans. So I think that you should really think about what you're saying, but be reflective and understand that the people of America want access to health care and do not want cost to be their barrier to getting it.
Senator Harris, thank you. Vice President Biden, your response?
The plan, no matter how you cut it, costs $3
What plan?
billion when it is in fact employed.
Okay,
Number one.
Chad,
10
am I
years from now,
crazy
after
for thinking she
2/3
hasn't
of the
described a
senators
single
exist
aspect of her
after
plan?
her time. Secondly, it will require middle-class taxes to go up, not down. Thirdly, it will eliminate employer-based insurance. And fourthly, what happens in the meantime?
No, it isn't.
I'd like to respond. First of all, the cost of doing nothing is far too expensive. Second, we are now paying $3 trillion a year for healthcare in America.
You know what? I
Over
just
the
had a
next 3
thought.
years, it's probably
Wouldn't
$6
reducing
trillion.
access
We
to
must
healthcare
act. My plan
make
is about
it healthier
immediately
for
allowing
babies?
people to
Because then they
sign up
wouldn't be
and get
aborted.
into coverage. Right now
Yes.
in America, we have
So-
seniors
Anyway,
who
so
every day,
can I talk
millions of
about this
seniors
from a
are going
Sure.
into the
point?
Medicare system.
Notice how the
And they are
entire
getting
debate
full
has been
coverage and the kind
Kamala
of coverage
against
they
Biden.
need.
Yeah.
All people
The
should have
reason why
access to
they're doing
healthcare
this is
and
because
costs should
Biden
not be their
has the
burden.
majority of
Mayor de Blasio,
black
let's bring
voters
you in
right
here.
now.
What's your response?
They're
Thank
trying
you.
to
I don't
drain
know
his
what the
vote,
Vice President
black
and Senator are
voters,
talking about. The
and
folks
give
I
them to
talked to
Kamala
about health
Harris.
insurance say
I love
that
how they
health
aren't
insurance isn't
sticking
working
to
for
it
them.
at all.
There's tens of millions of Americans don't even
Like
have
the
health insurance.
the time
Tens of millions more
amount they
who have
just
health
let
insurance that can barely
Biden and
make
Harris
work
talk.
Kamala talk as much as she
because of
wants.
the copays, the deductibles.
Well, she's
the
a proud woman of
premiums,
color.
The out-of-pocket expenses. There's this
Allegedly.
mythology that
Just
somehow all
brown
these
instead of
folks are in
black.
love
She's
with
a
their
proud
insurance in America. What I hear
Hindu woman
from
of
union
color.
members
No,
and
no,
from
that's
hardworking
Tulsi. There's
middle-class
a
people
proud
is they wish they had
subcontinent
better
woman of
insurance.
color.
And they're angry at private insurance companies
Yeah,
that
because
skim all
she's
the
a
profits
Southern
off the top
Baptist. She
and make it
wasn't. Her
impossible
mother was
for everyday
Hindu, but she
people to get
converted
coverage
to
like
Southern
mental health care,
Baptist.
Thank you,
dental
Mr. Mayor.
care,
Who
the
did?
things that would be full
Kamala
coverage.
Thank you,
Harris.
Mr. Mayor. Vice President
Kind of like how
Biden
Nikki Haley
turned to
converted
Mayor
to
de Blasio.
Methodism.
He said in the past
I thought
that
she became
Democrats who
Catholic.
want to keep the private
No, you're
insurance
thinking of Bobby
industry
Jindal.
are defending a healthcare
Okay.
system
I
that
think
is
Bobby
not
Jindal
working.
probably
What's your
is
response?
Catholic.
My response is
No, he is actually
Obamacare
Catholic.
is working. The way to build this and get to it immediately is to build on Obamacare. Go back and take back all the things that Trump took away, provide a public option, meaning every
Automatically?
single person in America.
Well, why
would be
didn't
able
you
to
do
buy
that?
option if they didn't like their employer plan, or if they're on Medicaid, they'd automatically be in the plan. It would take place immediately, it would move quickly, and it would ensure the vast majority of Americans. In the meantime, what happens? Did
I'm
anybody
gonna
tell you
really
how much
piss
the
off the
plans
Nazgul
cost?
here, but I'm
My
saying,
plan
how much would it cost if we just
$750
didn't have any health care, if we just
billion.
had
That's
complete
what it
free
costs,
market?
Not $30 trillion.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. Senator
Do you want
Gillibrand,
me to die?
you
Or
support
do you
Medicare
fucking-
for all.
I don't know. I
How do
think
you
free
feel
market
about
would be
Senator
better
Harris
than the current
continuing to
system.
call her health proposal Medicare
Either,
Yeah, I
for
think
all,
either
the
just a
current
full
when it
system is
includes a
universal
far
or
more
a full free
significant
market
role
would
for
probably
private
be
insurance
Because
than
can't
the
companies not compete
I think
across
for the viewers
state
in the
lines?
audience right
They
now,
can't.
they're
That's something they
at
could
risk
But
of losing the
fix, but
forest through the trees.
I think that
Because the
universal
truth
health care would
is,
still be
healthcare in America
superior.
should be a right.
No, I'm
When
just
I was a
saying
young
it's
mother
worse
and
than
had
either
Theo as an
of
infant,
them at
he
the
had an
moment.
Problem with
allergic
the
reaction
universal
to eggs,
healthcare
and
is
his
like what
whole
happened
body
in Britain,
turned red
where
and
you
puffy.
had
I had to rush him to
you
the
actually had
emergency
literal
room.
death
My
panels
heart was
saying, "Yeah, sorry,
palpitating
but Alfie
because
Evans
I'm
doesn't deserve
worried
to live."
that his throat will
Yeah, but
close.
literal
I am
death
not
panels are
worried
actually
about
good.
not having an insurance
Should we
card
have
or
a
a credit
system
card in my
where you
wallet.
have
I
the
know whatever
elderly
they're going to
sucking
prescribe, whether
everything
it's an
from the
EpiPen
young,
or an inhaler, I
making
can
the
afford
young
it.
pay more,
The truth about
so
healthcare
that
in
people
America
have to
today
pay
is people
thousands and
can't
thousands
afford
of
it.
dollars
They
to have
cannot
children?
afford, and the
The
insurance
only problem is I
companies,
don't
these
think that
plans
we
that
should be
rely on
killing the
insurance
elderly
companies, I'm
off.
sorry, they're for-profit
Yeah.
companies. They
Gonna
have
have to
an
go with you on that one.
obligation
Such a
to
thing
their
as
shareholders.
morality.
But
They
we
pay
should
their
be allowing the
CEO
elderly
millions of
to die
dollars.
naturally.
They have to have quarterly profits. They have fat in the system that's real, and it should be going to healthcare. So let's not lose the forest for the trees. And last, let's not forget what the Republicans are doing. Because the truth is, the Republicans and Trump,
At the very
their
least, the
whole
current
goal
system
is to
is
take
What
away
does
Notice how
Medicare
she's
to
talking
make it
to
harder
people
for you
in
to
red
afford it,
states.
even if you have pre-existing
Because
conditions.
the Democrats in red states, the reason people vote Democrat is because of
In
healthcare.
response to Senator Biden about the
healthcare
Affordable
is
Care
an
Act,
extremely important
it is
issue.
important that you understand that our Medicare for All plan has actually, by the architect of the Obama Affordable Care Act, been described as one of the most effective ways to bring healthcare
The
to all.
single
Kathleen
biggest
has
complaint
endorsed
I've
our
heard
plan
from
as
very
being something that will get
pro-American
us to where
Canadians
we
as to
need to
why
go.
they don't want us to
In
join the
terms of the
states
point
is
that
that that they want to keep our healthcare system, and they don't want to go with.
Keep in mind that my mother is the most racially immoral person I know in real life,
and that's going to be
and
about
she
jacking
votes
up
Democrat solely for
jacking up
healthcare.
deductibles. It will still be the
Healthcare
situation
is an
that people going
extremely
to an
important
emergency
issue.
room.
Okay, Mental Gear says, has anyone actually worked in a hospital? Let's see.
$1,000. Because
Oh, I thought he said he
further
had.
support the ability to buy into the
Yeah, I mean, I
Obamacare.
do agree with what he's
Secondly,
saying there.
the
Like,
idea
keeping
that this
people
is
alive
somehow
for a couple of
a
weeks for so
bad
much money is
idea.
just insane.
No one has to keep
It is
private
actually.
I think you should
Okay, if they
allow
like their
old
insurance, they
people
should
to
be
die.
able to keep
The problem is the whole
Nothing
precedent
is demanded
that
in my
that
plan
could
that
set
there
where
be
in
private insurance.
once
It
you
says
start saying,
if
well, we
the
can start
160
we can
million
have
people who
separate
have it
people start
say they
deciding
like their employer
when
insurance,
people are allowed
they
to
should have
die.
a right to have
Start
it.
getting
If they
into
don't, they can
eugenics, and you
buy
start getting into
into
like
No,
you
but
know,
I think you have to. You can't just. There's a limited number of
Senator
resources.
Booker, let me bring you in here. You say
should-
you support Medicare
you
for all.
should
You
get-
also say
you
you're
should
not going to
have
pull
it
private
be
health
to where
insurance
people
from
have
more than
children for
150 million Americans
Do you want to have
in
a
exchange for a
eugenic
government
society?
plan. But that's what
I
Medicare
don't
for
want to have
all would do.
I don't want a dysgenic one, but I don't
Well, first
like
of all, let me just say that the person is enjoying
think
this
you
debate
don't
like right
wanna
now
have
is
a
Donald
negative
Trump, and we pit
eugenic
Democrats
society.
against
No,
each
and that's
other.
why
While he
I
is working
would
right
not
now
want I would
to take
not allow
away
immigration
Americans'
from
health care.
third world.
There is a court case working through the system. That's
I think
going
also
gut
old
the
people
Affordable
need to be
Care Act
able to die if
and
they want
actually
to,
gut
which isn't
protections
really a
on
thing
pre-existing
that
conditions.
we're allowed.
And so I was raised by two civil rights
I mean,
parents who told me
I'm just
always
with-
keep your
Oh,
eyes
sorry. I just have to
on
be
the
faithful
prize.
to Catholic
And that
teaching,
is that in the United States,
Does
of
Cory
America,
Booker
every
dye his
Democrat
skin,
should stand with
sir?
the belief that everyone
No,
should
he's
It's
got
possible.
It's a
If you
human
notice a
right. And how
close-up,
we
he
get
has
there,
blue
it
eyes
has
or
to
gray
be
eyes.
sort of got like the
to end
James
this
Earl
broken
Jones thing.
system because we are on our way in just a handful of years of literally spending 20% of our
Because we
economy,
have
one out of
300
every
million people.
$5 spent on healthcare.
Maybe
and
you
we
should
spend
find
more
older
than
pictures
every
of
other
Cory
nation
Booker and
on
post
everything
them
from
up.
MRIs
Maybe if
to
there's a high
insulin
school
drugs,
picture, he's
multiple
white.
more than other countries, multiple
No,
more
I think
than other
Kamala
countries.
Harris tried
And
to
so
drain
you want to
some
know
of
what
the
I'm
color
going to do?
from it.
I'm going to work to get us to a point where Medicare for all, where everyone is covered. But this pitting against progressives, against moderates, saying one is unrealistic.
He
and the
actually
other
looks
doesn't care
blacker in
enough,
older
that to
photos.
me is dividing our party and demoralizing us in face of the real enemy here.
Thank
and
you,
I'm going to
Senator.
keep fighting for that end.
Thank you, Senator Booker. Congressman Gabbard, what's your response?
The reality is right now we don't have
Yeah,
a
I don't think
healthcare
there's a
system.
single black person
We have a
running for
sick care
president.
system, and there are far too many people in this country who are sick and unable to get the care that they need because they cannot afford it. So at the core of this problem is the fact that big insurance companies and big pharmaceutical companies who've been profiting off the backs of sick people have had a seat at the table writing
Can
this
you guys still hear
legislation.
me?
Now,
Yes.
Kamala Harris just
Okay.
talked about
Yes.
'Cause I
Kathleen
just moved a
Sebelius, who
little away
helped
from the
write her
mic.
bill. This just pointed to the fatal flaw in her proposal. Sebelius works for Medicare Advantage, private insurance company who will stand to profit under her plan. If we're seeking to really reform our healthcare system, we've got to shut out big insurance and big pharma out of the drafting process so they cannot continue to profit off the backs of the sick people in this country who are searching and in desperate need of care.
Senator Harris, your response?
She's like whining.
Well, unfortunately,
Can we hear, like, someone else
Representative
talk? This is
Gabbard got it wrong.
No, black
Kathleen
woman's talking.
Sebelius
Shut
did
up.
not write my plan. She endorsed it as being one of the plans that is the best to get us to a place where everyone is going to have access to health care in America. And when we talk about this again,
This thing
I'm
is
gonna
so
go back
obviously
to Vice
rigged
President
to give
Biden,
Harris way
because
more
your
time. It's
plan does not cover
how does anyone take this
everyone in
seriously?
America by your staffs and
I
your
want
own
Yang.
definition. 10 million people, as many as 10 million people, will not have access to health care. And in 2019 in America, for a Democrat to be running for president with a plan that does not cover everyone.
Okay,
I think it's
people in the
without
chat, have they
excuse.
discussed a
Our
single
plan
aspect of
covers
how they're
everyone
going to
and
give
gives
people
people
health
choice.
care?
Thank you, Senator.
Or have they
President
just said we're going to
My
give
plan
people health
does
care?
will cover everyone. Number one. Number two, the fact is that my plan also calls for controlling drug prices.
To be
Biopharma
fair
is
to
not
Arjun,
what
right
they
there,
grow. It's no
Biden
longer
is standing
chemicals. It's about
before
all these
Obama,
breakthroughs we
and
have
at least
with
the
whole-
Obamacare
dealing with the whole,
exists.
immune system.
Like he
And what we
just
have to
keeps
do now
talking about
is we have to have a
his
form that
status
sits
with
in the
Obamacare and
HHS and
supporting
says,
it.
as you
So at
develop
least
a drug,
there's
you
that.
got to come to us.
Yeah,
and
I mean, at
tell
least it's
what
something.
you can sell it for. We will set the price. And secondly, it says that you cannot raise that price beyond the cost of inflation from this point on. To end the
I want to bring in Senator Bennett. Last night on this stage, one of your Democratic rivals suggested that running on Medicare for all would get Donald Trump reelected.
This guy has like
Do you
the
agree with that, sir?
Charlie Kirk
I
tiny
agree that
face.
it makes it much more likely. Unlike others on this
This
stage,
guy
I
reminds me of someone. I just don't know
I've
who.
been for a decade through 2 tough races in Colorado.
I think I know it. It's a
we
block
started
of
with the
wood.
Affordable Care Act with a public auction that gives everybody in this audience the chance to pick for
It's
their
Plank
family
from
whether
Ed
they
and
want
Nettie.
private insurance or public insurance. It requires drug companies to be negotiated with by Medicare, and it provides competition. That is totally different from the plan that Senator Warren and Senator Sanders and Senator Harris have proposed, which would make illegal employer-based health insurance in this country and massively raise taxes.
This guy feels like he's about to fall asleep.
$30 trillion, as Joe Biden said. We don't need to do that. It doesn't make sense for us.
When are they going to
take
talk
away
about
insurance
Mouse
from half the
Utopia?
people in this room and
When
put
are they going
huge
to talk about
taxes
the
on
real
almost
issues,
everybody
like
in this room
behavioral
when we
shift?
can pass a public option,
I thought you were going to say
trust
the
the
real
American
issues, like
people to make the right
a
decision,
black person
and
said,
have
"I'm
universal
sad.
health care in this country
Fuck laws."
in 2
Real
years,
issues
not
are
10 years.
behavioral.
Holy shit, we have 120 people watching. Hey guys, glad that you're here.
Well,
Hey guys,
I
why
know
don't
that
you
this is something very personal
subscribe
for
to
all Americans.
Circle?
I grew up with a grandmother that had
And
diabetes,
subscribe to Fritz
and
Imperial.
I watched
Yep,
her
I have
get
everybody's
worse.
channels
That whole
down
time
in
she
the
had Medicare.
description.
I think
I
my
wanna
next
strengthen
go,
the Medicare
review is going to be after I
on
finish
it
the
and then
series
expand it to anybody
It's going to
who
be a
wants
review
it.
of Night Raid
I
19.
also believe, though, that if somebody has a private health insurance
one of
plan
my
that is
favorite
strong,
series.
that they want to hold on to, that they should be able to do that. What I don't believe is that the profit motive of big pharma or big insurance companies should ever determine in our great nation whether somebody gets health care or not.
Thank you, Secretary Castro.
Is this a
Harris,
Pokemon
Senator
channel or
Bennett had
something?
suggested that
Shade
you
Notice
should
how
consider
Kamala
banning
gets to talk
employer-based
more than
health
everybody.
insurance. Is that true?
Well, first of all, with all due respect to my friend Michael Bennett, my plan does not offer anything that is illegal. What it does is it separates the employer from health care, meaning that where you work will not be the kind of health care you get will not be a function of where you work. I have met so many Americans who stick to a job that they do not like, where they are not prospering, simply because they need the health care that that employer provides. It's time that we separate employers from the kind of health care people get, and under my plan, we do that. As it relates to the insurance and the pharmaceutical companies, who will not be called in and who will not be taken to task by Senator Biden or Senator Bennett's plan, we will do that.
Senator Bennett, I want to bring you back.
Senator Harris is my friend as well, but I have
Then
to
you
say,
gotta
if
go
we
clean
can't
your room,
admit,
bucko.
if we can't admit tonight what's in the plan, which is banning employer-based insurance,
Oh my
we're
God.
not going to be able to admit that.
I don't know if I'm
going
gonna be able to do this,
Democrats
guys.
are doing that as well.
Come
we need
on.
to be honest
came
about
on
what's
here.
in this
I
plan.
wanna
It
stick
bans
Rise of Argent Gang.
employer-based
You can do
insurance
this.
and taxes
It's so
the middle
boring,
class
though.
to the tune of $30 trillion.
That's the-
Do you know how much that is?
Argent,
So
get some
what?
beer and start drinking.
70%
I don't
of
drink.
what the government will collect in
And I think
taxes
I've
over the next
given up
10
drinking
years.
for now.
We
Thank you,
don't
Senator.
need to do that.
We'll take my
We
sleeping
can have a
pills.
public
Second, but I
option
do
and
wanna-
have
I do
universal
wanna-
health
Won't
care
that make you
in this
even
country.
more tired?
I do want to bring in.
No, it'll
Senator
make
Harris,
me,
because
like,
you just
super
suggested you were
chill.
not being honest.
We cannot
You should
keep
have
with the
some weed
Republican
then.
talking points on this. You gotta stop. The reality is that under my Medicare for All plan, yes, employers
honestly,
are
keep in
not going to be able
mind,
to dictate
again,
the kind
as a
of health care that
working-
their employees
more
get.
working
They will
class
be able to
American,
make that decision.
it's
Private
extremely
insurance
important.
companies and
Healthcare
private
is
carriers,
one
if
of
they
the
comply by our rules
like,
and play by our
this
rules,
is one of the
will
main
be able to
problems
offer
the
those
Republican
employees
Party
health
is
care
losing.
coverage under a private
Even
Medicare
if you
plan, or
can't
they can
really
have the option
achieve
of a
this
public
in
Medicare
terms of
plan.
what's
But it is
available,
misleading
you
to
should talk about
suggest
healthcare
that
all the
employees want what their
Indeed.
employer
Because
is
this is
offering
what's
only. They
supporting-
want choice, and my
This is
plan
what's
gives that to
giving
them.
the
Senator
Democrats
Governor
a lot
Inslee, I
of
want to bring
powers.
you
The
in.
Democrats just
You
don't,
recently
or the
signed
Republicans just don't
a
talk
public
about it at
option
all.
into law which allows Washington state residents to purchase a state-backed plan if they want to, but this may only save families in Washington state as little as 5% off premiums. Is 5% really the kind of relief that the American people need?
No, we need universal coverage, and I'm proud of our state that has done less squabbling and actually getting things done. And I am proud that we were the first state to offer a publicly sanctioned offer of health care to our citizens.
In the words of
I'm also
Sam
proud
Hyde,
that we
we're
didn't
just gonna
stop there.
kill them.
We're also the first state that has taken care of our elders, our seniors. We have a looming retirement wave coming up. I'm proud that our state has made them eligible to retire in dignity. I'm also proud of this, and I think we need to talk more about this as Democrats.
Eligible in,
it is time
with
to give people
indignity?
adequate mental health care in this country.
Says the party that's
And
fine
we
with
are-
transgender.
No,
rights.
I don't just.
Isn't
We are
Yang
having,
just yell
we've
out
had
to
some
get
success in integrating mental
Stop
health
being
with
Asian
physical
and
health.
just
There's
start
no
being
reason we
fucking
should distinguish
annoying
between your
American men.
physiological and your mental health.
Yell, just
And the last thing
interrupt
we're
and
doing,
just
I think
get
it's very
the eyes
instructive
on
for
you.
the nation. We know we're being eaten alive by pharmaceutical costs. We have had one of, if not
Yeah,
the
so you're
most
saying Yang
innovative
needs
way
to
to
rise
drive
up?
down pharmaceuticals for life-saving medications in the United States. That's a record
wait,
of
speaking of
Washington
which-
State. I'd like to take to Washington, D.C.
Ooh, there we go.
Thank you, Governor Inslee. Mr. Yang, I want to bring you in. You support a Medicare for all system. How do you respond to Governor Inslee?
Well, I just want to share a story. When I told my wife I was running for president, you know the first question she asked me? What are we going to do about our health care? That's a true story, and it's not just us. Democrats are talking about health care the wrong way. As someone who's run a business, I can tell you flat out our current health care system makes it harder to hire. It makes it harder to treat people well and give them benefits and treat them as full-time employees. It makes it harder
Alright,
to
guys,
switch
I gotta
jobs,
head out.
as Senator Harris just said.
Okay,
It's
thanks for
certainly
coming
a lot
on,
harder to start a
Charlemagne.
business.
I'll get you to
If
come
we're
on
gonna say, look,
sometime
we're
with
gonna get
SERP
healthcare
and
off
talk
the
about
backs of
reactionary
businesses and families, then watch
philosophy.
American entrepreneurship
Yeah,
recover
we
and
might
boom.
just
That's
do
the
that
argument
on
we should be
our
making to the
own,
American
too.
people.
Or you can do that. It doesn't matter to me.
Blasio?
Just off rig.
I don't understand
Well, in any case,
why
yeah, that would be
Democrats
cool,
on
and
this
also
stage are
way more interesting than this.
fear-mongering about universal
Okay.
health
Thanks,
care.
man.
It makes
God
no
bless.
sense. Ask the American
see ya.
people. They are sick of what the pharmaceutical companies are doing to them. Ask them what they feel about the health insurance companies. They feel it's holding back their families because they can't get the coverage they need. They get a lot of no's. They don't get a lot of help from health insurance companies. Why are we not going to be the party that does something bold?
Then
that
explain
says
it.
we don't need to be dependent on private insurance. We can have a system that actually covers everyone. You know what? Donald Trump won this state of Michigan by saying he was going to disrupt the status quo. How about we be the party that's going to disrupt the status quo
Thank you.
for working people?
Mr. Mayor, just
We didn't land on
Can you
Plymouth
talk about
Rock.
clarification?
Plymouth Rock
Who are you
landed on
talking about?
us.
Who's fear-mongering?
Certainly, with all due respect to
I
Senator
thought you were gonna say,
Bennett,
who's
what
fear-mongering?
he's saying
Donald
is
Trump.
absolutely
But this doesn't have to
inaccurate
do with him.
about
It's Donald
taxes.
Trump.
Americans right now are paying so much money for their health care. Ask people about the reality of premiums, deductibles, co-pays, out-of-pocket expenses. That's
you.
worse than any tax.
Thank you.
And people are paying that right
Are they
now.
actively
Mayor,
trying to
Senator
like
Bennett.
sabotage Yang, or just no one
This
give a
is-
shit about him outside of
This
memes?
has nothing to do with
I think it's
Republican talking
probably
points
the latter.
or the pharmaceutical industry. This has to do
Sadly,
with
he's
having
not gonna be
faith
the
in the
one.
American people that they can make
He's
the
not
right
gonna be our
decisions
guy.
for their families and they can choose a public option. Bernie Sanders, who said last night he wrote the damn bill, and he did, just like I wrote the damn public option bill, is the guy who says it'll cost $32 trillion and that we're going to have to raise those taxes to pay for it. He says that. Republicans don't say it. Don't try to distract from the truth.
Thank you, Senator Bennett.
You can't hide from the truth.
I want to
here.
let
We
Mayor
need
de
to be
Blasio, and then I'm
universal
going to come to you.
The
Vice
guy has
President Biden.
no
Senator,
charisma
if we
whatsoever.
as Democrats say we're
What
done
about
with
the people
private
that work
insurance
for
that has only
insurance
hurt the American
companies?
people in
Don't
so
they
many
just get
ways,
sort
we're
of
going to give
fucked
them
by
something
this?
that works for their families,
Yeah, they
full
do.
coverage that they can depend on. If we say
But
that, then there's an
apparently
election.
selling
The American
insurance
people
is
get to
evil.
decide. The ultimate choice, Senator, is an election. And this should be the party that stands for universal health care and says, we're not going to accept anything less. Right now in America, so many people
I think my
don't
grandpa
have
was
the
my
health
grandfather
care they
was
need. That is a
insurance
fact.
salesman, or he was a
Tens
salesman
of
of
millions of
sorts.
people, including middle
Thank you,
class
Mr.
people.
Mayor.
Give them a chance
Thank
to
you,
make
Mr.
that
Mayor.
decision through an election.
Vice President Biden, your response, sir.
This is not a Republican talking point. The Republicans are trying to kill Obamacare. Obamacare took care of 20 million people right off the bat, 100 million people with pre-existing conditions. And in fact, what we got is a public option that in fact would allow anybody to buy in. No one has to keep their private insurance. They can buy into this plan, and they can buy into it with a $1,000 deductible and never have to pay more than 8.5% of their
I'm an
income
old
when they
Irish
do
guy.
it. And if they don't have any money, they get in free. So this idea is a bunch of malarkey, what we're talking about
Back
here.
in my day.
The fact of the matter is that there will be a deductible. It will be a deductible in their paycheck. Bernie acknowledges it. Bernie acknowledges it. $30 trillion has to ultimately be paid. And I don't know what math you
Does
do in New
Delawareans
York.
know how to do
I don't know what
math?
math
What?
you do in California, but I tell you, that's a lot of
Oh,
money.
God.
There will be a deductible. The deductible will be out of your paycheck because that's what will be required.
Senator
I wanna
Harris, I
talk
want to
about
bring you
math,
in. Your
bring it in.
response.
Yeah, let's talk about math.
Are you guys still there?
Let's talk about math.
Yep.
Let's talk
I'm
about
just
the
listening.
fact that
We'll
the
come back.
pharmaceutical companies and the insurance companies last year alone profited $72 billion. And that is on the backs of American families. And under your plan, status quo, you do nothing to hold the insurance companies to task
How?
with what they have been doing to American
I
families
can't
in
follow
America
this.
today.
I'm sorry.
A
I
diabetes
find this
patient, one
really
in
hard
four
to
cannot
follow.
afford their insulin.
Like, what
in
are they even
America
talking?
today,
Like,
Thank you, for those people who are overdosed
Talking
from an
about
opioid, there
free
is a
stuff
series that costs
compared to like
$4,000
standing
that will
behind what's
save their
already
life.
happened
It
and
is
having
immoral,
policies.
it is
And the
untenable,
people
and
with
it must
policies
change
that
with
matter
Medicare for all.
I think they sort of know they can't go as insane as they did the first
I have
debates.
the only plan that limits the ability of insurance companies to charge unreasonable prices, flat out, number one. Number two, we should put some of these insurance executives
Now
who
that's an
oppose my
actual
plan
talking
in
point.
jail for the
Oh.
9
Or that's an
billion
actual point about the
opioids they sell
opioid
out
crisis
there.
that needs
They
to be
are
addressed.
misrepresenting to the American people what need to be done.
Okay,
And
I
lastly,
actually
here's
think
the
that's
deal.
based.
The deal is, let's figure out how
Jailing
this
the people who are fucking
we
selling,
immediately are able to
running
cover
pill mills.
everybody who wants to
The
get
Jewish
off of their
population of prisons
insurance
will go
plan
up
they don't like, no
dramatically.
matter what one it is, and buy into a Medicare option.
Yeah.
And they can buy the
Speak
gold plan,
Spanish.
and they're not going to have to pay. Anyway.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. Thank you. Let's move now to immigration, please.
Oh,
Secretary
fuck.
Castro, you think it should no longer be a crime to cross the U.S. border illegally. President Obama's Homeland Security Secretary, Jay Johnson, whom you served with, says that is a public declaration that the border is, quote, effectively open to all. How is he wrong?
Thank you for that question. You know, if you elect me president, you're not electing me to follow. You're electing me to lead. And open borders is a right-wing talking point. And frankly, I'm disappointed that some folks, including some folks on this stage, have taken the bait. The only way that we're going to guarantee that we don't have family separations in this country again is to repeal Section 1325 of the Immigration and Nationality Act. That is the law that this president, this administration is using to incarcerate migrant parents and then physically separate them from their children. My immigration plan would also make sure that we put undocumented immigrants who haven't committed a serious crime on a pathway to
Oh, he's
citizenship.
speaking with the accent
that
now.
We do a 21st century Marshall Plan with Honduras, El Salvador, and Guatemala, so that we can get to the
I actually knew
root of
somebody
this
from a
challenge,
different
so
server that
people
she
can find
basically
safety and
she
opportunity
was like
at
a
home
right-wing third
instead of
worldist
having to
that
come to the
basically
United
said
States. That's how we
that
can be smarter,
she wants to stop
more
illegal
effective, and
mass
more humane
immigration just by
when it
helping
comes to
all the other
immigration
countries.
policy.
Thank you, Secretary Castro. Senator Bennett, what's your response?
I disagree that we should decriminalize our border.
Oh, no.
This is personal for me. My mom's an immigrant, and she was separated from her parents during the
Jewish?
Holocaust in Poland. And for those reasons, I
Bennett
was
sounds
part
Irish,
of the
though.
Gang of Eight that wrote.
I guess his
wrote
dad probably was
the
Irish or
immigration bill in
something.
2013 with John McCain that passed the Senate
There's
with
not.
68
I think there's
votes.
like
You revealed
That gave
he was
a pathway
Jewish
to
on
citizenship for the
mainstream
11 million
television?
undocumented people that are
Woke.
here. That would pass
I think
the
there's like
most
3 or
Dream
4
Act
times
that
the
had
number
ever
of
been
undocumented
conceived,
in this
much
country.
less
It's not
passed
11
on the
million.
floor of the Senate, and had $46 billion of border security. Every single Democrat voted for that bill,
Senator.
and a lot of Republicans. That should be our
Thank you.
position.
Thank you, Senator.
That is our position.
Thank you,
as
Senator.
Democrats.
Senator Harris, you have indicated that you don't think it should be a criminal offense punishable by jail to cross the U.S. border illegally. How do you respond to Senator Bennett?
Well, again, with all due respect, you know, after the last debate, for example, I went to a place in Florida called Homestead. And there is a private detention facility being paid for by your taxpayer dollars.
Is she gonna
a private
pretend to
detention
cry?
facility that currently houses 2,700 children. And by the way, there were members of us, Julian was there, members of Congress. They would not let us enter the place, members of the United States Congress. So I walked down the road, I climbed a ladder, and I looked over the fence. And I'm gonna tell you what I saw. I saw children lined up single file based on gender, being walked into
What?
barracks. The policies of
Based
this
on
administration
gender,
have
so
been
she doesn't.
facilitated
What?
by laws on the books
So
that
they-
allow
so they
them
were
to be
in-
incarcerated
they were
as
in
though they've
500
committed
different groups.
crimes.
Thank you,
These
Senator.
children have not
Thank you,
committed
Senator
crimes
Harris.
and should be not treated like
Senator
criminals.
Bennett, what's your response?
I don't understand with the detention centers. Do they
I
like
think
what
this
do they
is
do
one
with
in
it?
the end
Do they
that
like
we agree with.
send
There's
them back
not
to
a
the
single
country,
person
or
on
they
this
just keep them there?
stage who, if we were president, would ever separate a child from their parents at the border. And that is what this administration has done in the American people's name. They have turned our border into a symbol of nativist hostility. The symbol of this country before Donald Trump was president was the Statue of Liberty.
prefer a
That
statue of
should be the
Jesus.
symbol of the United States of America, not Donald Trump's terrible.
Thank you, Senator
border.
Bennett. Senator Gillibrand, I'm going to bring you in. What's your response?
So I think when you talk about whether this should be a crime, you have to remember who we're talking about. When I was at the Texas border, I visited with women who had fled violence. A woman from El Salvador owned a small business. Gangs came to her and said, if you don't give us all your money, we're going to kill your
Don't they
family.
rape people here,
That's why
then?
she fled. Another woman was raped. That's why she fled. So this is who we're talking about, and they're not criminals. So I believe that we should have a civil violation. No president before President Trump enforced the law in the way he has enforced it, because he's using it as the crutch to lock up women and children, to separate mothers and babies, to put them behind bars. So I don't think we should have a law on
So
the
what
books
do
that
they
can be
think
so
his
misused.
motivation?
It
Like,
should be a
why do
civil
they think
violation,
Trump
and we
is
should
doing
make
this?
sure that we treat
They just think
people
he's pure
humanely.
evil.
Thank you,
They
Senator.
think he's,
Vice President
well,
Biden.
he has the dark psychic energy.
In the first 2 years of the Obama administration, nearly 800,000 immigrants were deported, far more than during President Trump's first 2 years. Would the higher deportation rates resume if you're president?
Absolutely not, number one. Number two, everything landed
couldn't
on the
pronounce
president's
his
desk
name.
of locus. I found that the secretary, we sat together in many meetings.
What?
I never heard him talk about any of this when he was the secretary.
Please be respectful. Please be respectful in the crowd.
3 million deportations.
Please continue, Mr. Vice President.
The fact is,
what does that even mean?
I don't know if you can hear, I can hear, but anyway.
We can hear fine, Mr. Vice President. Please continue if you
The
will.
fact is, what the senator from New York talked about is seeking asylum. That woman, the women she spoke to, are entitled to asylum. That is not crossing the border illegally. What we should do is flood the zone to make sure we have people to make those decisions quickly. With regard to the secretary's point, I already proposed and passed $750 million
though just sort
for
of
Guatemala, El
isn't this
Salvador,
just like an
and Honduras
appeasement thing,
to
or
be able
isn't
to
this
change
like
the
paying off the
circumstance why
mafia?
people
Isn't this
fled
like paying
in
them
the
for
first
extra money
place.
so they
In
don't
addition to that,
break your
we're in a
kneecap, saying
circumstance
we'll
where
pay you
if,
money
in
so you
fact,
won't
you
come
say
here?
You can just cross the border.
It's like,
what do you say to all those people
that's the
around
type of
the
attitude
world
I want for
who,
a foreign
in
policy:
fact,
is
want
absolute
the
supplication
same
to
thing to come to the
tiny,
United
weak
States
Latin
and make
American
their case,
nations.
but they have to wait in line. The fact of the
Thoughts?
matter is, you should be able to.
Hello?
If you cross the border
Yep, we're just
illegally,
listening
you
to
should
what
be
he's
able
saying.
to be
Sorry.
sent back.
I'm just
It's a
listening.
crime. It's a crime, and it's not one that, in fact.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. Secretary Castro, please your
Yeah,
response.
first of all, Mr. Vice President, it looks like one of us has learned the lessons of the past and one of us hasn't. Let me begin
See
by
how
telling
everyone's
you,
attacking Biden?
Yeah.
let me just start out
He's
by
like the
answering
lightning
that
rod of
question.
this.
My immigration plan would also fix the broken legal immigration system because we do have a problem with that. Secondly, the only way that we're going to guarantee that these kinds of family separations don't happen in the future is that we need to repeal this law. There's still going to be consequences if somebody crosses the border. It's a civil
Did you just say
action.
that having
Also, we
what we
have
have in the law is
654
good?
miles of fencing. We have thousands of personnel at the border. We
I
have
don't know.
planes, we have
Secretary.
boats, we have helicopters, we have security
Secretary
cameras.
Castro,
What we
thank you.
need are politicians
Your time
that
is
actually
up.
have some guts on this
I'm
issue.
Thank you, Secretary. Mr. Vice President, please your response.
I have guts enough to say his plan doesn't make sense. Here's the deal.
What
The
is
fact of
his
the matter
plan?
is
Just let
that, in
everybody
fact,
in?
When people cross
Yeah,
the border
basically say you're
illegally,
going to do
it is
something
illegal
to
to
try
do it
and,
unless they're seeking
appease
asylum.
the more
People should
moderate
have
whites,
to get in
but
line.
then just have open
That's the
borders because
problem.
that's
and
what
the
will
only reason
give
this
you every
particular
election.
part of the law is being abused is because of Donald Trump. We should defeat Donald Trump and end this practice.
Thank you. Congresswoman Gabbard, what's your response?
But not when you see an abortion.
Our hearts break when we see those children at these detention facilities who've been separated from their parents, when we see human beings crowded into cages in abhorrent, inhumane conditions. This is about leadership and
What is a humane
understanding that we
immigration
can
policy
and should
outside of
have
open
both
borders
secure
for everybody?
borders as well as humane immigration policies. We will have to stop separating children from their parents, make it so that it's easier for people to seek asylum in this country, make sure that we are securing our borders and making it so that people are able to use our legal immigration system by reforming those
Mommy
laws.
GF status
Mr. Yang,
lost.
your response.
I'm the son of immigrants myself. My father immigrated here as a graduate student and generated over 65 US patents for GE and IBM. I think that's a pretty good deal for the United States. That's the immigration story we need to be telling. We can't always be focusing on some of the distressed stories. And if you go to a factory here in Michigan, you will not find wall-to-wall immigrants.
Base.
You'll find wall-to-wall robots and machines. Immigrants are being scapegoated for issues they have nothing to do with in our economy.
Thank you, Mr. Yang. You have a plan that would, quote, virtually eliminate immigration detention. Does that mean that the roughly 55,000 migrants currently in detention would be released into the United States?
Absolutely. First of all, I just want to say, again, tonight, we are playing into
What does that even
Republican
mean?
hands who have a very different view, and they're trying to divide us against each other. I'm listening to the language of my colleagues. No, Mr. Vice President, we are not going to just let people cross the border. An unlawful crossing is an unlawful crossing if you do it in the civil courts or if you do it through the criminal courts. But the criminal courts is what is giving Donald Trump the ability to truly violate the human rights
Where do
of
rights
people
come
coming
from?
to our country who no one surrenders.
Obama
their
has
human
them in his
rights.
stash.
And so doing it through the civil courts means that you won't need these awful detention facilities that I've been to, seeing children sleeping on pavement, people being put in cages, nursing mothers, small children. This is not necessary. We have seen, using the civil system, piloted programs that have 100% compliance with the civil courts, where people are evaluated. If they have no justifiable reason to be here, they are returned.
So basically, if you
they
get raped,
are,
that makes you
people I met in
eligible for
Juarez
American citizenship.
who were survivors of sexual
I don't
assault.
know, it
Like,
doesn't
as
make
bad as
any
that
sense.
is, I don't think that should be the
and present
case.
for asylum. We are butchering
Or else
our
there,
values
well, actually,
and
there
making
be a huge
ourselves.
number
Senator
of
Booker, thank you very much.
Swedish and
Mr.
German
Vice
women
President,
that
your
could come to
response.
the United States.
I agree with the senator. The asylum process is a real process, and this president is ruining it. It has nothing to do with that section of the law. That's what he's doing,
Administration.
Number two, we should, in fact, and we have proposed and we tried to get past in our administration,
No.
I propose, significantly increasing the number of legal immigrants who are able to come. This country can tolerate a heck of a lot more people, and the reason
Yes,
we're the country
white
we are
Anglo
is we've been able to
immigrants.
cherry pick from the best of every culture. Immigrants built this country. That's why we're so special. It took courage, it took resilience, it took absolute confidence for them to come. And we should be encouraging people. And by the way, anybody who crosses the stage with a PhD should get a green card for 7 years. We should keep them here.
Thank you very much, Mr. Vice
Base
President. Governor
brain
Inslee,
drain.
what's your response?
I think
Oh,
we're
boy.
missing two
The white
central statements
nationalism.
we need to make. Number one, we can no longer allow a white nationalist to be in the White House. Number one.
Whoa.
Number two,
If only.
Number two, we have to make America what it's always been, a place of refuge.
You mean your
We
30-year-old,
gotta boost the number
your
of people
30-year-old
we accept.
Somali
I'm proud
guys?
to be the first governor saying send
Wait, do
us
I-
your
Mina-
Syrian refugees.
So,
I'm proud to have been the
look
first
at me,
governor
I've
to
if
said
say
you're
every
like
Muslim
really
ban.
low energy,
Muslim
you
ban.
just
I'm
even
proud
it
to have
out
stood
by
up
having
21 times in
extremely
meeting,
radical
21 times
rhetoric.
in a row. I'm ready for November
Yep.
2020.
Go ahead, Mayor de Blasio, please, your response.
2 points. One, it's all kind of a
Is it
charade
bad that I
because
kind of
we don't
agree
want
with
them to
Biden the
be here.
most
People here, and
out of
everyone
these
in
people?
theory has broken the law, but they're part of our communities now. They're part of our
He
economy.
seems
They're our
like
neighbors.
less
Why are we
radical.
even discussing on one level whether
Yeah,
it's a
well,
civil
yes,
penalty or a
he's
criminal
trying to
penalty
stand
when it's an
behind
American reality? And what we
Obama's
need is
policies.
comprehensive immigration
His
reform once
campaign
and
is
for all
Obama,
to fix
Obama,
it.
Obama.
Second, Vice President Biden, I
That
didn't hear
means it
your
ties
response
him
when the issue
down
came
to
up
be
of all those
moderate.
deportations. You were Vice President of the United States. I didn't hear whether
feel
you
when
tried
Obama
to
is
stop
now
them or
considered
not,
moderate.
using your power, your influence in the White House. Did you think it was a good idea, or do you think it was something that needed to be stopped?
Mr.
The
Vice
president
President.
came along, and he's the guy that came up with the idea, first time ever, of dealing with the dreamers. He put that into the law. He had talked about a comprehensive plan, which he put on laid before the Congress, saying that we should
Why?
find a pathway to citizenship for people. He said we should up the number of
You have
people
almost
that we're able to
Because
bring
the
into this
Obama, yeah,
country.
because the Obama
Lastly, he
administration was
also
great at
pointed out
stemming
that we
mass
should go
immigration.
to the
Yep.
source of the
Oh,
problem.
by the way,
Fix it
everybody,
so
we have
that
some
people
links
were
to
living
some
in the first
channels
place.
down.
So he
We
did.
have.
Compare him to Donald Trump, I think, is absolutely bizarre.
Let's
Thank you very much,
see
Mr. Vice
here.
President.
Actually,
Congresswoman
okay,
Gabbard,
let me just
you are a co-sponsor of the College for All
Hey,
Act,
we
which
have
would
almost
make
we have
public colleges and
195 people
universities
watching.
free for all Americans. One of the authors
I'm
of that
just
plan,
gonna have
Senator Sanders,
to
believes
take
college
the
should be,
video
tuition free
down.
for undocumented immigrants as well. Do you?
I don't. I think
Wait,
it's
what's going
important
on?
for us to
Oh,
fix
just
our
a
legal
content
immigration
ID
system
issue. I'm
and
just
look at
gonna
the
try
millions of
taking the
undocumented
video
immigrants in
down
this country
and
who have
just
been
do it
suffering
to
as they've been living in the
audio and
shadows,
see
and
if I
instead
can
of
do it then.
putting a band-aid on this problem, fix our legal immigration system.
I'll
to
probably have to
provide them
take
with
this
that
down
pathway
afterwards.
to legal residency
But yeah,
or
people, please
citizenship
go
so
and
that they're no
subscribe to my
longer
friend
treated
Serp's
as
channel
second-class
and
citizens in
Fritz
this country.
Imperial too.
We've got to look at the challenge that
we
people
just
all
had
across
a
this
height
country
of
are facing
195
under
viewers at the
crushing
same time.
student
Yep.
debt. This is something that is impacting my generation in a huge way, and I believe that it is our generation that has the bold, creative solutions to be able to solve it. This is about promise for our future, and we've got to make those kinds of investments.
Thank you, Congresswoman. Mayor de Blasio, what's your
Who
response?
cares about Biden?
I agree with the congressman,
yeah,
but I
Bill
don't
Blasio
hear
just said,
an
"I'm not
answer
going
from
to
the vice
answer,
president. I'm confused.
Tulsi
I
Gabbard.
asked
I
the
wanted
vice
then
president
attack
point blank, did he
Joe
use
Biden
his
again.
power to stop those deportations? He went right around the question. Mr. Vice President, you want to be president of the United States, you need to be able to answer the tough questions. I guarantee you, if you're debating Donald Trump, he's not going to let you off the hook. So did you say those deportations were a good idea? Or did you go to the president and say, this is a mistake, we shouldn't do it? Which one?
I was vice president. I am not the president. I keep my recommendation in private. Unlike you, I expect you would go ahead and say whatever was said privately with him. That's not what I do. What I do say to you is he moved to fundamentally change the system. That's what he did. That's
What a
but
quote.
much more has to be done.
What does that mean?
Much more has to be done.
I still don't hear an answer.
Senator Booker, please respond.
Well, a couple things. First of all,
So he's telling him to break the law and
You invoke
reveal like
President Obama
confidential
more than anybody in
information
this campaign. You
to
can't
make
do it when
a
it's convenient
stupid point
and then
during
dodge it
debate.
when it's not. And the second thing, and this really irks me because I heard the vice president say
Well,
that
hey, if you
got a
get Joe Biden
PhD,
arrested, then
you
he,
come right
he's
into this
not
country.
competition anymore.
Well, that's playing into what the Republicans want, to pit some immigrants against other immigrants. Some are from shithole countries,
Oh, you said
and
shithole.
some are from worthy countries.
Whoa.
We need to reform this whole immigration system and
He
begin
said
to
some
be
are
the
from
country that
shithole
says
countries, some are from worthy
everyone
countries.
has worth and dignity, and this should be a country that honors for everyone. Don't let the Republicans divide this party against itself.
Senator, thank you. Mr. Vice President.
What about Native
Please,
Americans?
That's what I said about this country. We are a country of immigrants. All of us. All of us. Some here came against their will. Others came because they, in fact, thought they could fundamentally change their lives. And they did. The statute of send us your. That's what we're talking about. That's what made us great. And the fact of the matter is, I think the President of the United
People
States,
didn't
Barack
want it.
Obama, went out of his way to try to change the system, and he got pushed back significantly.
Senator Gillibrand, what's your response?
Wow.
Yes. Donald Trump
again,
went to their house and
She's
shot
such a
them.
ditz.
Under his administration, 7 children died in his custody. Under
That's
his
it?
administration, families have been torn apart. This party is talking about
Only
our values in
7?
the
Do,
future.
like, are these
We're
people
talking
not aware
about
people
what we
just
will do to
die?
change America.
Like,
but we must not forget about
like,
our
it-
values.
like,
Also,
we used to believe in this
how
country
many,
you should
you know,
treat others the way
that
you want to
time
be
Planned
treated.
Parenthood probably
we
killed
used to
500,000
believe in this
people.
country we
no,
should
but
care
like
about
people
the
just
least
get
among
hit by
us.
cars and
Let's
shit. Like
remind
they might have
American
died
people who
of
we
like
are,
an
why we are
allergic
Democrats,
reaction
and
to
why we're
like
running for president.
Senator
peanuts.
Gillibrand,
I'll be back
thank
in a
you very
second.
much.
I don't
The
know.
debate will be right back.
It could have been
after this short break.
anything. Like, I don't know. I don't get it. Serp, did you ever notice that? Like, they say, like X number of kids, but, like, we don't know why they died. Like, they aren't explaining it, right? Like, it could have been anything. It could have been they had a pre-existing condition. It could have been...
Well, if you take children as human body shields and walk them across the desert, they tend to die.
Right. I know, but in, like, normal schools, way more than 7 children probably die a year.
Mm-hmm.
So...
Even if you just take into account suicides.
Yeah. Wow, this is... I don't know.
I think we should finish the debate.
Yeah, it's...
I mean, at least I'd like to.
It's kind of a freak show. It's not,
They're trying to moderate, I think.
Yeah, I think they are after, because they went, like, a lot harder.
They're also just, yeah, they're not, like, explaining any of their policy. They say, we're going to do this. They're not, or they're saying, like, we should do this, or, you know what I mean, right? Like, they're not giving any details or specific of how they're going to implement the plan, their immigration or healthcare plan. They just say it needs to be reformed. You know, they don't answer the question of, are you just fine with mass, you know, with illegal immigration, blah blah blah.
Right. I know this is like a normie boomer conservative talking point, but don't like 17 people get shot a night in like Chicago or some shit like that?
Well, it's not even like that. It has to. I sort of hate that. It's like, oh, you know, because, you know, boomer conservatives say it, then that means you can't use it. But like, you know, it is true. Democrats have run these cities for decades, and because of, I guess, immigration and, you know, just poor policies with the welfare state, they fuck these places. Like, I still remember, like, Thomas Sowell said, like, when he grew up in Harlem in, like, the 40s and 50s, people, like, the families that had TVs, you could still just, like, they would, like, leave their doors open and the neighbors would come in and just watch the TV with them. They weren't afraid of them being stolen or anything.
Right.
I think in 1929, the black unemployment rate was lower than the white one.
Yeah, I remember someone asked Tom Sowell about his childhood, and he said the kids went to school and people who committed crimes were arrested. That was his... I feel bad for Tom Sowell.
Well, he's probably lived a good life.
He's a good
He was
man.
like one of the first sort of influences I had. I sort of went through the normal, you know, go from normie boomer conservative to hard libertarian, then to like alt-right, and then reactionary.
Yeah,
You haven't taken the Nazbol pill yet?
I don't think I will. Thing is, I still think there's actually faith you can put into hard free market economics.
Gross.
Like fuck Keynes. Hayek was right. Hayek did nothing wrong.
Gross.
If I want your face to melt, do I just have to show you a picture of Ayn Rand? I know she's the devil, but
she's the Antichrist.
Is a man not entitled to the sweat of his brow? No.
Hey, is a woman not entitled to her sexual desire for serial killers?
I don't know, guys. All I know is we live in a society.
Welcome back to the CNN Democratic presidential debate. We are live from Detroit. I want to turn now to criminal justice of Mr. Vice President. Senator Booker called your new criminal justice reform plan, quote, an inadequate solution to what is a raging crisis in our country, unquote. Why is Senator Booker wrong?
Well, I
Don't
think he's
imprison
wrong.
black
I think
people.
we should work together. He has a similar plan. I think that we should change the way we look at prisons. Right now, we're in a situation where when someone is convicted of a drug crime,
Edward Gurer asks you to say hi to him,
they
Fritz.
shouldn't be going to prison. When in prison, they should be learning to read and
There you
write,
go.
and not just sitting
How
there
you
and learn
doing?
how to be better criminals. And when they get out of prison, they should be in a situation where they have access to everything they would have had before.
I understand, like, you know, there is
for education, including
an
making
argument
sure
to
that
be made
they're
for
able to have
rehabilitation
housing,
for
public
drug
housing,
users,
including
but the thing
they
is,
have
like,
all the
I still think we
opportunities
should go
available
full
to them because
Singapore
we
and
want them to become
execute drug
better
dealers.
citizens. That's the essence
Oh,
of
yeah.
what my plan in detail
Fuck drug
lays out.
dealers.
I'm happy to discuss it more in detail.
If you
Senator
sell
wants to.
weed,
And
you should be
so
shot.
I looked at it anyway.
I know
That's
Joe
what I
Rogan
think
will be upset,
My plan,
but
I know what my plan does, and I think it's not.
I do sort of
dissimilar
like how
to
Stefan
what the
Molyneux
senator
has
said
now
we
just
should be
gone
working
hard
together on getting
anti-weed.
things done.
Senator Booker, your response?
Well, my response is that this is a crisis in our country because we have treated issues of race and poverty, mental
Because I think
health
you could
and
make
addiction
the
with locking people
comparison
up
that
and
you
not
shouldn't lock
I had to
people
turn
that
the
are-
video off because I was
And
getting a
Mr. Vice
content ID
President
warning.
has said
So
that since the 1970s,
I can't show it,
every
I'm sorry.
Major crime bill,
That's
every
why
crime
it's
bill,
not there.
Major and minor.
Is it still just
has
audio,
had
though?
his name on
Yeah,
it.
I still have the
And so
audio
those
on.
are your words,
Okay.
not mine.
I'm saying is like
And
you could
this
compare
is
it to
one of
like
those instances where the house
if somebody,
was set on
you don't
fire.
arrest people that
and
are
you
addicted
claim
to pornography,
responsibility
but
for
you
those
should,
laws.
or at least in our plan,
And
we
you can't
wouldn't
just
do
now
that.
come out with a
But
plan.
you
I'll
should
set
have
this
a
to
plan.
private or something after it's
We have
over.
got
Or
to
I'll
have
just edit
far
out.
more
Nah, I'll
bold
just set it to
action
private once
on
it's
criminal
over.
justice reform.
Maybe
like
tomorrow
having
I
true
will.
marijuana justice, which means that we legalize it on a
Thing is, I need to get some,
profits in communities that have been disproportionately
I need to get some
targeted
more views because I
by
lost a
marijuana.
lot of views and a lot of search ranking just because I had to delete a bunch of shit because YouTube is doing its crackdowns.
That the senator's talking about are bills that were passed years ago, and they're passed overwhelmingly. Since 2007, I, for example, tried to get the crack powder cocaine disparity totally eliminated. In 2007, you became mayor. You had a police department that was
So
you went out and you
bipartisanship is
hired
only
Rudy
bad when we
Giuliani's
want it
guy.
to be bad.
You engaged in stop and frisk. You had 75% of those stops reviewed as illegal.
I mean, yeah,
you found yourself
I like
in a
how they just
situation
think
where
like,
3
oh,
times
evil
many
corporations
African-American
or
kids
Donald
were
Trump
caught in that
forces
chain
black kids to
and caught
smoke
up.
weed.
The Justice Department came
Pretty
after
much.
you for saying you were engaging in behavior
I really
that was
hate weed.
inappropriate.
Like,
And then, in fact,
my
nothing
biggest
happened.
issue with weed is that I don't think people are
Senator,
aware of how
Well, first
dangerous
of all,
it
I'm
is.
grateful that he endorsed my presidency
Like,
already, but I'll tell
what
you
are the
this,
long-term
it's no
effects of
secret
weed?
The younger you are when you use it,
massive problems
the more
decades-long
damage it does to your
But the head
IQ.
of the ACLU has already said, the head of the New Jersey ACLU, that I put forth national standard setting accountability. Mr. Vice President, I didn't interrupt you. Please show me that respect, sir. We have a system right now that's broken, and if you want to compare records, and frankly, I'm shocked that you do, I am happy to do that, because all of the problems that he is talking about that he created, I actually led the bill that got passed into law that reverses the damage that your bills that you were, frankly, to correct you, Mr. Vice President, you were bragging, calling it the Biden crime bill up till 2015.
Thank you, Senator. Vice President Biden.
Number one, the bill he talks about is a bill that in our administration we passed. We passed that bill that you added on to. That's the bill, in fact, you passed. And the fact of the matter is, secondly, that there was nothing done for the entire 8 years he was mayor. There was nothing done to deal with the police department that was corrupt. Why did you announce on the first day a zero-tolerance policy of stop and frisk and hire Rudy Giuliani's guy in 2007 when I was trying to get rid of the crack cocaine?
Mr. Vice President, there's a saying in my community,
I'm
you
with
dip
the
into
kids.
Kool-Aid and you don't even know the flavor. You need to come to the city of Newark and see the reforms that we put in place.
The
New Jersey head of
ACLU
the
is certainly an
ACLU
organization
has said that I
like their
embraced
endorsements.
reform.
It's actually like, I know this once again is kind of a boomer thing, but these debates are so biased it kind of bothers me. Like how Biden gets like the CNN and the powers that be are obviously trying to take Biden down.
Phony rhetoric that got a lot of people elected. But
I think they would be
destroyed
trying to build him
communities
up.
like
Why
mine.
would they?
This isn't about the
No, because
past.
Biden's not
No,
running.
they do not
present
want Biden.
right now.
They
I
want
believe in
Thank you,
redemption.
Senator.
I'm happy
They're
you're involved.
they're
But
run
you
by
offer no
lizard
redemption
people,
to the people in prison
and the
right now.
lizard
bring in
people
Secretary
don't
Castro.
agree
Your
with
response,
the
sir?
Yeah, well,
rest of the
I agree with
corporation,
Senator Booker
and the
that,
lizard people want
I
the
agree
most
with Senator
radical
Booker
people
that a lot
possible.
of
So they're deliberately
what,
destroying
Vice
Biden.
President helped author in '94 was a mistake. And he has flip-flopped on these things, and that's clear. But let me say, when we talk about criminal justice reform, there are a lot of things that we can talk about: sentencing reform, cash bail reform, investing in public defenders, diversion programs. I'm proud that I'm the only candidate that has put forward a police reform plan, because we have a police system that is broken, and we need to fix it. And whether it's the case of someone like Tamir
Did he say
Rice
Donald
or
Trump
Michael
killed
Brown,
Michael Brown?
Or Eric Garner,
It was a
where
long
the Trump
shot.
Justice Department just decided not to pursue charges.
Somehow fired
We
like
need to ensure
across
we
the
have a national
country.
use
How
of
dare
force
they
standard,
shoot criminals
and
that are
we
trying to
end
kill them?
qualified immunity for police officers
He's doing
so
the
that
Hitler
we can
salute.
hold them accountable for using excessive
Thank you,
force.
Secretary Castro.
I
want to bring in Governor Inslee. Governor Inslee, your response.
Let me suggest that people come out to the state of Washington and see what criminal justice reform looks like. Our effort to reduce racial disparity. I'm proud that I was the first governor to offer pardons to thousands of people with drug crimes. Now we're vacating more tens of thousands. We've eliminated the death penalty. And importantly, we've done this. When people come out of the legal system and they've done their responsibility to the citizens, we need to make sure they can get a job. We have banned the box so that people can actually get a job when they come out. And I've got to argue with my friend Secretary Castro. We haven't just put forward a plan. We have adopted probably one of the best police accountability measures and train our police officers in de-escalation techniques so we have less violence.
Secretary Castro, your response to Governor Inslee?
Well, that it's much more than that, because what we see, and this was a good example the other day of the Department of Justice not going after Officer Pantaleo. That, Officer Pantaleo used a chokehold that was prohibited by NYPD. He did that for 7 seconds, 11 different times. Eric Garner said that he couldn't breathe. He knew what he was doing, that he was killing Eric Garner, and yet he has not been brought to justice. That police officer should be off the street.
Mayor de Blasio?
Donald Trump is racist.
Mayor de Blasio,
BRB.
why is that police officer
Still on the force, the one who killed Eric Gardner. Please
Well,
respond.
Let me tell you, I know the Garner family. They've gone through extraordinary pain. They are waiting for justice, and they're going to get justice. There's finally going to be justice. I have confidence in that. In the next 30 days in New York. You know why? Because for the first time, we are not waiting on the federal Justice Department, which told the city of New York that we could not proceed because the Justice Department was pursuing their prosecution. And years went by, and a lot of pain accrued. And in the meantime, what I'm working on is making sure, and I have for 5 years, there will never be another tragedy. There will never be another Eric Garner because we're changing fundamentally how we police.
Thank you, man.
But there's one last point I have to say about the Justice Department. The Vice President,
He was the
for
Vice
2.5 of
President.
those years, Mr. Vice
They don't
President,
have that much authority.
tell us, what did you do to try and spur on the Justice Department to act
Thank you,
in
Mayor.
the Garner
Thank
case?
you, Mayor de Blasio. Vice President Biden, you can respond to that.
Releasing criminals.
We did a lot. Number one, we made sure we reduced the federal prison population by 38,000 people. Number one. Number two, we in fact insisted that we changed the rules that police engage in. They had that, we provided for body cameras. We made sure that there were a lot of things that were changed in the process. 38,000 people in the federal system were released under the system. And so the fact is that there's a lot we've done. But here's the deal. The fact is that we're talking about things that occurred a long, long time ago. And now all of a sudden, you know, I find it fascinating. Everybody's talking about how terrible I am on these issues. Barack Obama knew exactly who I was. He had 10 lawyers do a background check on everything about me on civil rights and civil liberties, and he chose me, and he said it was the best decision he made.
Thank you, Mr.
I'll
Vice
take
President.
his judgment.
Mr. Yang, your response?
I speak for just about everyone watching when I say I would trust anyone on this stage much more than I would trust our current president on matters of criminal justice. We cannot tear each other down. We have to focus on beating Donald Trump in 2020. I want to share a story that a prison guard, a corrections officer in New Hampshire said to me. He said, we should pay people to stay out of jail because we spend so much when they're behind bars. Right now, we think we're saving money. We just end up spending the money in much more dark and punitive ways. We should put money directly into people's hands, certainly when they come out of prison, but before they go to prison.
Thank you, Mr. Yang. I want to bring in Senator Gillibrand. You heard earlier
just
Mayor de
cut him off
Blasio
really
respond to Secretary Castro on the question of why the police officer who killed Eric
Do the
Garner
lizard
is still
people
on
hate
the
Yang?
NYPD. Was that response adequate? Please
What?
respond.
Do the
No,
lizard
he
people
should be
hate
fired.
Yang?
He should be fired now.
Yeah.
Probably.
Why do they hate him?
I sat down with Eric Garner's mother, and I can tell you, when you've lost your
'cause they don't
son,
have control
when he
over him?
begged for breath, when you know because you
Yeah,
have
You
it
know else
yourself,
can't breathe?
when
You
you
know else
know
can't
he
breathe,
said I
Gillibrand?
can't breathe so many
When you're
times
choking the
over and
life out
over
of them and
again,
ripping them
when you
out of their
know
mother's
he used
wombs.
an illegal chokehold, that person should be fired. And as I was, if I was the mayor, I'd fire him. But as president, I would make sure that we had a full investigation, that the report would be made
Oh,
public,
God,
and if I
not
wasn't
her.
satisfied, we would have a consent decree.
I want to bring in Senator Harris now. Senator Harris, you have also been quite critical of Vice President Biden's policies on race, specifically on the issue of
This is
busing
relevant 50
in the
years later.
1970s, having benefited from busing when you were a young child. Vice President Biden says that your current position on busing, you're opposed to federally mandated busing, that position is the same as his position. Is he right?
That is simply false. And let's be very clear about this. When Vice President Biden was in the United States Senate working with segregationists to oppose busing, which was the vehicle by which we would integrate America's public schools, had I been in the United States Senate at that time, I would have been completely on the other side of the aisle. And let's be clear about this. Had those segregationists their way, I would not be a member
Yeah,
of the
my
United States
internet's
Senate.
not
Cory
working.
Booker would not be a member of the United States Senate.
Fine
And
for
Barack
me.
Obama would not have been in a position to nominate him to the title he now holds. And so, on
So
that
exactly
issue,
what
we
was
could not be
busing
more
anyway?
apart.
It's where
Which
they
is that the Vice
they
President has
forced.
still failed to
Can,
acknowledge
so if you take the
that it was
entire
wrong to
city
take the
or
position that he
district
took
or
at that
whatever,
time.
and you put
Now, I would like
everyone
to
in the
also talk
entire
about this
district
conversation
to
about
the
Eric Garner,
percentage of
because
their
I too
racial
met
group,
with his mother.
regardless of how long it takes to move them there. So there'll be a black neighborhood and a white neighborhood. You take all the black neighborhoods and all the white neighborhoods in every school and all the Latino neighborhoods and Asian neighborhoods, and you put them in every single school in the entire district or city or whatever the unit is, and then you put them at equal percents in every single school.
Usurped, and I believe it is because that president did not want those charges to go forward, and they overrode a decision by the Civil Rights Division of the United States Department of Justice. Under my administration, the Civil Rights Division will reign, and there will be independent investigations.
Vice President Biden, I want to give you a chance to respond to what Senator Harris just said.
When Senator Harris was the Attorney General for 8 years in the state of California, there were 2 of the most segregated school districts in the country, in Los Angeles and in San Francisco. And she did not, like, I didn't see a single solitary time she brought a case against them to desegregate them. Secondly, she also was in a situation where she had a police department when she was there that in fact was abusing people's rights. And the fact was that she in fact was told by her own people, that her own staff, that she should do something about and disclose to defense attorneys like me that you, in fact, have been, the police officer did something that did not give you information that would exculpate your client. She didn't do that. She never did it. And so what happened? Along came a federal judge and said, enough, enough, and he freed 1,000 of these people. If you doubt me, Google 1,000 prisoners freed, Kamala Harris.
Thank you, Vice President Biden. Senator Harris, your response?
That is simply not true. And as Attorney General of California, where I ran the second largest Department of Justice in the United States, second only to the United States Department of Justice, I am proud of the work we did, work that has received national recognition for what has been the important work of reforming a criminal justice system and cleaning up the consequences of the bills that you passed when you were in the United States Senate for decades. It was the work of creating one of the first in the nation initiatives around re-entering former offenders and getting them jobs and counseling.
Thank you, Senator.
I did the work as Attorney General of putting body cameras on special agents in the state of California, and I'm proud of that work.
I want to bring in Congresswoman Gabbard. Congresswoman Gabbard, you took issue with Senator Harris confronting Vice President Biden at the last debate. You called it a, quote, false accusation that Joe Biden is a racist. What's your response?
I want to bring the conversation back to the broken criminal justice system
because
that
they
is
commit more crimes.
disproportionately negatively impacting black and brown people all across this country today. Now, Senator Harris says she's proud of her record
The 13%.
as a prosecutor and that she'll be a prosecutor president, but I'm deeply concerned about this record. There are too many examples to cite, but she put over 1,500 people in jail for marijuana violations and then laughed about it when she was asked if she ever smoked marijuana.
This is really good.
She blocked evidence. She blocked
Notice how you're a
that
cop,
would
you're a
have
cop,
freed
you're
an
a cop.
innocent man from death row until the courts forced her to do so. She kept people in prison beyond their sentences to use them as cheap
You're a
labor
cop,
for the
you're a
state of
cop, you're a
California.
cop.
And she fought to keep
Thank
cash
you,
bail
Congresswoman.
system in place that impacts
BRB.
poor people in the worst kind of way.
Thank you, Congresswoman.
Do you think that
Senator
actually hurt
Harris,
Kamala?
We'll see. We'll see what happens because this
As the
whole
elected
debate has been
Attorney
wall
General
to
of
wall
California,
attack Biden.
I did
I don't
the
know if
work
that's going to help him or hurt him.
Significantly
Because
reforming
it's so
the criminal justice
overwhelming
system
to
of a
attack
state of
Biden.
40 million people,
That it might
which
actually
became a
help him.
national model for the work that needs to be done. And I am proud of that work. And I am proud of making a decision to not
BRB.
just give fancy speeches or be in a legislative body and give speeches on the floor, but actually doing the work of being in the position to use the power that I had to reform a system that is badly in need of reform. That is why we created initiatives that were about re-entering former offenders and getting them counseling. It
Thank
is
you.
why, and because I know that criminal justice
Thank you,
system is
Senator.
so broken, that I am an advocate for what
Thank
we
you,
need
Senator.
to do to
Your-
not
your
only
time is up.
decriminalize,
I'll be
but
so
legalize
pissed if I have to
marijuana in the
start
United
seeing,
States.
like,
I want to bring
Potheads everywhere I
Congresswoman
go.
Gabbard back in. Your response.
The bottom line is, Senator Harris, when you are in a position to make a difference and an impact in these people's lives, you did not. And worse yet, in the case of those who were on death row, innocent people, you actually blocked evidence from being revealed that would have freed them until you were forced to do
Your
so. There's
reign,
no
oh, wow.
excuse for that. And the people who suffered under your reign as prosecutor, you owe them an apology.
Senator Harris.
My entire career, I have been personally opposed to the death penalty, and that has never changed. And I dare anybody who is in a position to make that decision to face the people I have faced to say I will not seek the death penalty. That is my background. That is my work. I am proud of it. I think you can judge people by when they are
So
under
how would you
fire, and it's
execute
not about some
pedophiles in
fancy
your
opinion
regime,
on a
Arden?
stage.
I don't know. I just think firing squads are
When I
okay.
was in the
I'd be
position
fine with a
of
public
having to
hanging.
decide whether or not
Yeah.
to seek a death penalty on cases I prosecuted, I made a very difficult decision that was not popular to not seek the death penalty. History shows that, and I am proud of those decisions.
Senator Harris, thank you very much. Senator Bennett, a
'Cause
question
I'm
for you.
a Jew.
Why are you the best candidate to heal the racial divide that exists in this country today, which has been stoked
Wow,
by
this
the
dude
president's
hasn't talked
racist
in like an
rhetoric?
hour.
Yeah, first of all, the president's racist rhetoric should be enough grounds for everybody in this country
Again,
to vote
why are
him
there
out of
black people
office.
that voted
That
for Trump?
one thing
I
alone
just
should
wish
be
I
enough.
There wasn't very many. I guess there
Don,
was
I know,
some.
but
I
I just want to know what is your answer for the fact that there were some black people
This
that
is
voted
the
for Donald
fourth
Trump?
They're
debate we have
self-hating
had,
blacks.
And the second
they're
time that
Porsche
we've been
monkey
debating what
house
people
Negroes.
did 50 years
Yeah.
ago with busing, when our
Sorry for being
schools are
cucked and
as
not saying the N-word,
segregated
but,
today
you know.
as they were 50 years ago. We need a conversation about what's happening now. And when there's a group of kids in this country that don't get preschool through no fault of their own, and another group does,
the
equal is
dreamers
not
and
equal.
me
And we've got a group of
are
K-12
the sun.
schools that are good because families can spend $1 million, and you've got the Detroit public schools that are as segregated as they were. Equal
Oh
is
my
not
God.
equal.
This guy has no
And let me tell
charisma.
you something else.
He's sounding like Kermit more and more.
I believe you can draw a straight line from slavery through Jim Crow, through the banking and the redlining to the mass incarceration that we
makes me
were
want to watch an
talking
episode of
about
the
on this
Muppets to
stage a
cleanse
few
my
minutes ago.
mental
But
palate
you know
from
what
this.
other line I can draw? 88% of the people in our prisons dropped out of high school. Let's fix our school system, and maybe we can fix the prison pipeline that we have.
Thank you, Senator Bennett. Governor Inslee, what's your response? Governor Inslee, please respond.
You know, I approach this question with humility because I have not experienced.
You've
what
also never
many
been a white
Americans
person
have.
had
I've never
the
been a
shit
black
beaten out of
teenager
you by
pulled
black
over in
people.
a white
Wow.
neighborhood.
I
I've never
haven't
been
either,
a
but-
woman talked over in a meeting. I've never been an LGBTQ member subject to a slur. And so I have believed I have an added responsibility, a double responsibility to deal with racial disparity. And we've talked on the way we do it, including
How do you
ending,
force people not to
ending
commit
the school
crimes?
to prison pipeline
I don't
in
know.
my
It's a
state.
good question.
But I want to say this, and this is a
Because that's the thing. It's like,
error
yeah, I
that every
understand
single
poverty,
senator on
you know,
this stage,
creates
as much as
crime
I
and
respect them
broken
all,
homes and all that. But at the end of the
they
day, it's
all
still your
have an
choice.
enormous error, which
I
is
don't want to
going
like go Ben
prevent
Shapiro,
our
but
party
he's sort of
from
right. Where he's
making
like, you know,
any
who's forcing you to commit
progressive
crimes?
progress in the United States.
It's a
And it
good
is
question.
this.
The lizard? No, the lizard
We are all
people
going to work like the Dickens to get more Democrats elected to the Senate, right? We are going to do that. And I hope we're going to succeed. But if we get a majority in the U.S. Senate, because of the position of these senators, not a damn thing's going to get done. And I'll tell you why.
Unlike me.
With all their good intentions, and I know they're very sincere and passionate, and I respect them enormously. But because they embrace this antediluvial, a supermajority thing called the filibuster, Mitch McConnell is going to run the U.S. Senate even if we take a majority. We got to get rid of the filibuster so we can
Thank
make
you, Governor.
progress. in the
Mr.
United
Yang,
States.
Mr. Yang, why are you the best candidate to heal the racial divide in America? Your response.
I spent 7 years running a nonprofit that helped create thousands of jobs, including hundreds right here in Detroit, as well as Baltimore, Cleveland, New Orleans. And I saw that the racial disparities are much, much worse than I'd ever imagined. They're even worse still. A study just came out that projected the average African-American median net worth will be 0 by 2053. So you have to ask yourself, how is that possible? It's possible because we're in the midst of the greatest economic
Yeah, I'm
transformation
here.
in
I'm just
history.
listening.
Artificial intelligence is coming. It's going to displace hundreds
Yeah,
of
I'm just
thousands of
listening
call
to
center
Yang,
workers, truck drivers,
to
the
the
most common
holy
job in
Yang
29
gang.
states, including this one.
He's talking
And
about
you know
more
who suffers
robots.
most in a natural disaster? It's
Yeah,
people of
something
color,
like that.
People who have lower levels of capital and education and
Martin
resources.
Lucifer Kang.
So what are we going to do about it? We should
Something
just
like
go
that.
back to the writings of Martin Luther King, who in 1967 in his book Chaos Our
$1,000.
Community said we
Here
need a
comes the money.
guaranteed minimum income in the United States of America. That is the most effective way for us to address racial inequality in a genuine way and give every American
All right,
a chance in the 21st century economy.
Mr. Yang, thank you very much. Secretary Castro.
Okay,
After the
back.
president's racist tweets attacking
Oh,
Baltimore
hopefully
and
this is
Congressman
almost
Elijah
over.
Cummings,
This is.
the mayor of Baltimore slammed
internet's
the tweets
literally
and said
trying
to the
to-
So
president,
what did Yang
and I quote
get
here,
say?
"Help us.
I
He said
Send
give
the
money. He
resources
said
that
give
we need to
$1,000
rebuild
to fix
America."
everything.
So
Because
what
I
would you do for
actually
Baltimore and other
couldn't really
cities
hear him.
that need help?
First of all,
But
the
he made more
president
sense.
is a racist, and that was just one more example of it.
Okay.
We know that whether it's Baltimore or cities like Detroit,
Orange
they're
Man
proud-
bad.
They're tremendously rich in history and culture and also in possibility. Here's what I would do if I'm president. Number one, I would invest in tremendous educational opportunity, invest in universal
No, I don't
pre-K
want
for
the
3 and
state to have even
4-year-olds,
more control.
invest in improving K through 12 education and also making higher education available to everyone through tuition-free public state universities, community
No.
colleges, and job training and certification programs.
Terrible
I would follow
idea.
up on the work that I did at HUD. We passed the most sweeping rule
Doesn't this,
to
like,
further
violate- doesn't the whole
desegregate
forced
our communities
desegregation
in the
thing
United
violate the
States.
idea of freedom of
This Trump
association?
administration set that back. I would put that
Freedom
back
of
in order.
association
I would
doesn't
also invest
exist.
in housing that is affordable because folks know that the rent is going through the roof,
So,
and we need to
to the
make
bane,
sure
to the
that you don't
detriment
have
of
to
Hans
get
Herman
out
Hoppe.
of West Baltimore or inner city Detroit.
No, like
or
I
the west
think
side of
it's
San
actually
Antonio
been.
or
I
anywhere
know
if you
Gary
wanna reach your
Johnson is
American
against
dream. I
freedom of
want you to be able to
association.
accomplish
I
it
think they
in your
asked
great
him about
neighborhood
it,
where you
and
are.
he said
Thank
he
you,
was
Secretary
against
Castro.
it.
Senator Hildebrand, what's your response?
So I don't believe that it's the
I
responsibility.
think my internet
of
is literally
Corey
like
and
keeps
Kamala
quitting itself out because
to
it doesn't
be
want to
the
watch
only voice
CNN
that takes
anymore.
on these issues of institutional
Nobody
racism,
wants to watch
systemic
CNN.
racism in our country.
Wow, this is.
I think as a white
Listen to
woman
the
of
white
privilege
women.
who is a U.S. Senator running for President of the United States, it is also my responsibility to lift up those voices that aren't being listened to. And I can talk to
it
those
quit
white
out
women in the
again. I don't
suburbs
know
that
what's
voted for Trump and
happening.
explain to them what white privilege actually is. That
Oh,
when
what
their
is
son
she?
is walking down a street with a bag of M&Ms in his pocket, wearing a hoodie, his whiteness is what protects him from not being shot. When their child has a car that breaks
Not enough
down
memory to open
and he
the page.
knocks on
What the fuck
someone's
does
door
that
for
mean?
help, and the door opens and the help is given, it's his whiteness that protects him from being shot. That
Really?
is what white privilege in America is today. And so my responsibility is to not only lift up those stories.
Once
but
again,
explain
I don't
to
think people are
communities
afraid
across
of like.
America,
I don't
like
know.
did
I
in
could be wrong.
Youngstown,
I don't
Ohio,
think
to a
people are
young
like that
mother,
afraid of
that
black
this is
people
all
who
of our
don't look like
responsibilities, and that together we can make our
thugs,
community
like who
stronger.
are
Thank you, Senator
Yeah,
properly
I'd be more-
groomed and.
Let's
I
now
would be more
turn
afraid
to
of,
the issue of the
white guy
climate
wearing a
crisis.
hoodie
The
and,
United
skulking
Nations
around. And like,
says
I'm not
the
afraid
world
of a black
needs to
guy in a
cut
suit.
all carbon emissions by
Unless it's Obama,
2050
but-
or risk facing disastrous consequences. Governor Inslee, many of your fellow Democratic candidates say climate change is the biggest existential threat facing the country. You, though, are calling it the #1 priority in your campaign. What do you know that the others don't?
Well, I know
Oh,
the
no, they're talking about
firsthand
climate change.
terrific impact of climate change on Americans across the country already. The family who I saw with their aluminum home, now just a pile of molten aluminum. They lost everything.
Donald Trump literally
paradise
caused the.
of
Mike
fires.
Pence uses
The
anti-gay
nonprofit in
lightning
Davenport,
to
Iowa,
cast down the
was
fire
washed
upon
away
gay
in the
California.
floods. We have
Something
to
like
act
that.
now. Look, climate change is not a singular issue. It is all the issues that we Democrats care about. It is health. It is national security. It is
So
our
when are they
economy.
when are they going to bring up
We
the
know this.
Victims of like
Middle ground
oh our
solutions,
coastal
like
home
the
was
Vice President
flooded.
When are they going to talk about Mouse
or
Utopia?
sort
It's
of
true.
middling,
Mouse
outlooks
Utopia
on
and
things
Mouse
are not gonna
Utopia.
save
I want
us.
them to talk about
Too
both.
little,
I want both.
Too late is too dangerous. And we
Wait,
have
did
to
he
have
just
a
say
bold
gold
plan,
standard?
and mine has
Oh,
been
I don't
called
think he
the
means
gold
it in the
standard.
base
Now,
way.
We also need to embed environmental justice. I was in zip code 48217 in the Detroit neighborhood the other day, right next to
The
an
parents
oil
also probably have
refinery where the
jobs.
kids have asthma and they have cancer clusters. And after talking to these folks,
That sounds like
I believe this.
like
It
some
doesn't
sort
matter
of
what your zip
candy,
code
a
is. It
cancer
doesn't
cluster.
matter what your color is. You ought to have clean
Thank
air
you,
and clean
Governor.
water in America. That's
Vice
what I
President
believe.
Biden, I'd like to get you to respond. Governor Inslee just said that your plan is middling.
There is no middle ground about my plan. The fact of the matter is, I call for the immediate action to be taken. First of all, one of the things that we're responsible for 15% of all
His
the pollution in
face
the
looks
country.
horrible.
He's right about how it affects affects people, and it affects neighborhoods, particularly poor neighborhoods. But here's the deal. In that area, there's also another piece. 85% of it is something I helped negotiate, and that is the Paris Climate Accord. I would immediately rejoin that Paris Accord. I would make sure that we up the ante, which it calls for. I would be able to bring those leaders together who I know. I'd convene them in the White House like we did in the nuclear summit, and I would raise the standard.
Thank you,
I
Mr.
also
Vice
invest $400 billion in research for new alternatives to deal with climate change.
Mr. Yang,
and that's
your
bigger than any other.
Come on, Yang. Bring it
The
home.
important number in Vice President Biden's remarks just now was that the United States is only 15% of global emissions. We like to act as if we're 100%, but the truth is, even if we were to curb our emissions dramatically, the Earth is still going to get warmer. And we can see it around us this summer.
Apparently, though, America has the cleanest air, has the cleanest air
This is
that
going
we've
to be a
had in
tough
100
truth, but we
years.
are too late. We are 10 years too late. We need to do
But
everything
China
we can to start
but we have to have
moving
China
the climate in the right direction, but we also need to start moving our
If you
people to
criticize
higher
India,
ground.
that's racist.
And the best way to do that is to put economic resources into your hands so you can protect yourself and your families.
I was challenged by
Thank
the
you,
Vice
Senator.
President. May I be heard on this for a moment?
Go ahead, Governor.
Thank you very much. Look, these deadlines are set by science. Mr. Vice President, your argument is not with me, it's with science. And unfortunately, your plan is just too late. The science tells us we
I
have
hate
to
when
get
they
off
use science
coal
as a
in 10
noun.
years. Your plan does not do that. We have to have off of
I've noticed
fossil
that new
fuels in our
atheists only know
electrical
4
grid at
words:
15.
Sky Fairy,
Your plan simply does not do
bullshit,
that. I've heard
science,
you say that
and reason.
we need a realistic plan. Here's
Yep.
what I
No, I
believe.
didn't say that.
Here's what I believe. I believe that survival is realistic, and that's the kind
If
of plan
God,
we need.
if God is
That's
real,
the
then
kind
why do I have a
have.
bad
My
relationship
plan
with my
calls
dad?
for 500,000 charging stations around the country. So by
That's sort of the sad but
2030,
reality
we're
of, I
all
think,
electric
90% of
vehicles. My plan calls for making sure that we have $400 billion invested in technologies to learn how to contain what we're doing, creating 10 million new jobs. We will double offshore wind. We will end any subsidies for coal or any other fossil fuel. But we have to also engage the world while we're doing it. We have to walk and chew gum at the same time.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. Just to clarify, would there be any place for fossil fuels, including coal and fracking, in a Biden administration?
We would get rid of millions of hundreds of thousands of jobs
work it
unless
out.
we
Make sure it's eliminated and no more subsidies for either one of those, any fossil fuel.
We cannot work it out. We cannot work this out. The time is
What is
up.
with
Our
all
house
this
is on
fucking
fire.
date shit?
We have to stop using coal in 10 years. And we need a
We need to stop the decline of the average IQ in the next 10 years.
That's what I'm for.
Senator Harris?
We need to we need to have stop women from going to university
Stop
to
it.
have more
Gotta
children.
start
One of
getting
her great
those
things,
genius
Governor,
babies.
which is we currently have a president in the White House who
The idiocracy is
obviously
upon
does not
us.
understand the science. He's been pushing science fiction instead of science fact. The guy
No,
thinks that
wind turbines cause vaccines,
cancer,
you
but what in
idiot.
fact
The-
they cause is jobs. And the reality is that I would take
Okay,
any
but like,
Democrat on this
there's
stage
other
over
countries
the
that have a
current
space
president of the
force.
United
Like
States who
Russia
is rolling
does,
it
China
back
does,
to
France
our collective
does.
peril. We must have and adopt a Green New Deal. On day one as president, I would re-enter us in
I
the
don't even
Paris
think the
Agreement
United States
and
is
put in
that
place so we would be
bad
carbon neutral by
on,
2030.
Senator, I want to talk about that
resources, is it?
with Senator Gillibrand.
Sorry?
You are a co-sponsor of the Green New Deal, which
I don't even
includes
think the United States
the
is doing
guarantee
that
of
bad on
a job
renewable
with medical
resources.
leave, paid
We're
vacations,
actually doing
and
way better.
retirement
Like
security for
again, I said
everyone
America
in
has
America.
air quality has
Explain how
gotten
that's
better than it
realistic.
has in 100 years.
So the first thing that I'm going to do when I'm president is I'm going to Clorox the Oval Office. The second thing I'm going to do
What a cunt.
is I will re-engage on global climate change. And I will not only sign the Paris Global Climate Accords, but I will lead a worldwide conversation about the urgency of this crisis. The greatest threat to humanity
Is she like the wannabe
is
Antichrist?
global
Like she's
climate change.
angry
I
that
visited a family in
Buttigieg or
Iowa
whatever his
who
name is
water
has taken the
spewed
position
into
of the
her home,
Antichrist?
ran par. It tossed her refrigerator upend. All the furniture was broken, all the dishes were broken, and mud was everywhere. That is the impact of severe weather right now on families' lives. And so the truth is, we need a robust solution. When John F. Kennedy said, "I want to put a man on the moon in the next 10 years," not because
Tulsi
it's
Gabbard
easy,
makes
but
me
because
hard.
it's hard. He knew it was going to be a measure of our innovation, our success, our ability to galvanize worldwide competition. He wanted to have a space race with Russia. Why not? have a
Because
green
China doesn't
energy
gain
race with
anything from it.
China?
They'll be like, fuck
Why
you,
not
China.
have clean air and clean water for all Americans? Why not rebuild our infrastructure? Why not actually invest in the green jobs? That's what the Green New Deal is about. Not only will I pass it, but I will put a price on carbon to make market forces help us.
Thank you, Senator. Congresswoman Gabbard, you are not a co-sponsor of the Green New Deal. Please respond.
Oh, first of all, this is personal. You can imagine I grew up in Hawaii, which is the most remote island chain in the world. So for us, growing up there, protecting our environment was not a political issue. It's a way of life. It's part of our culture. It's part of who we are. This is why, as a member of Congress, long before there was ever a Green New Deal, I introduced the most ambitious climate change legislation ever in Congress called the Off Fossil Fuels Act. That actually laid out an actionable plan to take us from where we are today to transition off of fossil fuels and invest in green renewable energy, invest in workforce training, invest in the kinds of infrastructure that we need to deal with the problems and the challenges that climate is posing to us
seem to be
today.
against nuclear?
Thank you, Congresswoman. Senator Booker.
Because it would
What's your
solve
response?
reasons.
Is the job guarantee in the Green New
But don't
Deal
you dislike
realistic?
I just
nuclear?
want to take, first of all, a step back and say that I agree.
Aren't you against
wholeheartedly.
nuclear?
Governor Inslee is one of the reasons why Greenpeace ranks
In
him at
terms
the
of
top of this entire
yeah,
field.
because of
Candidates on
GDP.
climate.
I don't trust the future generations with it because they'll be too stupid.
I want to say very clearly. Thank
Oh,
you.
it'll make things
Thank you.
fun.
I'll try
Okay,
hard.
by the way, I was researching the Toyota
reason
War.
why is because,
Okay,
first
part
of
of
all,
what
this
happened there
problem
was
didn't start yesterday.
France
Science didn't become a
grounded the
reality yesterday.
Libyan
This
Air
has been going on
Force.
for years. There was another president that
What
would not
war?
join in
The
international
Toyota
law, and it
War.
was the Kyoto Accords. I was
Oh,
mayor
yeah,
then,
it
and I stood up
destroyed,
national leadership, joining with other mayors to say
It
that
destroyed their
climate
center of
change is not a
communications.
separate
Yeah,
issue.
like
It
it's
must be
okay.
the
It's
issue and
unfair to
the
say the
link
Libyan
between
like it was
every
completely
issue.
Libya's
Nobody
fault
should
for
get
being low
applause for
IQ. I
rejoining the
mean,
Paris Climate Accords. That is kindergarten.
Oh,
We
no,
have to
it's
go
an-
to far
they use it
advance
as an
and make sure that
example
everything from our
of
trade deals,
Arab-
everything from the billions of dollars we
Arabs
spend
being
to
really
foreign
bad at
aid,
war.
everything must be sublimated to the
I
challenge
mean, to a
of the
certain-
crisis that is
Chad should be a
existential,
much worse
which is
military,
dealing with the
but
climate
Libya
threat. And
wa-
yes,
and Libya
the majority
lost.
of this
So they
problem is
used it as
outside
the
the United
example de
States.
jure
But the only way we're
of
going to deal with this
Arabs
is if
being
the
bad
United
at war.
States
Because
But-
Arabs are so
Thank
bad
you,
at war,
Senator.
they're
Mayor de
black
Blasio.
speaking.
Your
okay, but
administration
like
has come under fire
if
after
France
hundreds
hadn't
of
have provided them
children
with all
living
the
in New York City
support, I
public
think they would have
housing
won.
tested positive for elevated levels of lead.
So is it
As you
kind
know,
of
we're not
like
far from
it
Flint,
doesn't seem like
Michigan,
really a
where
fair
residents are
example.
still dealing with the
I don't.
consequences
You have
of
to
having lead in their
understand
drinking
that they
water.
stormed
How
like the
can you
Libyan
assure the people of
bases with
Flint
Toyotas
and across the
against tanks
nation
and
that
so
you are the
on.
right person to handle
Right.
such a problem?
Although they did have state-of-the-art
We have a
anti-tank
huge
missiles.
problem, and it's
Wait, what war is
decades
this?
old in New York. But
The
here's what
Toyota
we've done
war in the
about it.
80s.
We've declared the
Where is this? When was
eradication
this?
of all lead. Literally
Like the
ending
trucks-
the lead
invaded Chad.
poisoning once and for
Oh,
all
okay.
as the goal of our administration, and we're
And
doing
then,
something about it.
then
Lead
France
poisoning has gone down
intervened on Chad's side
90%
and
since
used this
2005,
Air
and
Force
we're
to
going to
destroy a
literally
lot
bring
of
it down
essential
to zero.
infrastructure of
Because
Libya's
we're going to
side.
go into
So
every
Libya
place,
was repelled
buildings,
from Chad.
schools, public
And
housing,
the
At the
French
same
pref-
time,
take
it's
out that
important
lead,
to
remediate
remember
lead
that
once and for all.
Chad,
That needs
the
to be done
entire
all
war
over
was
this
fought
country. Now, the federal government
within
used to not
Chad,
take any
and there was no
responsibility
warfare
for our
within
public
Libya.
housing. For decades, they've been disinvesting in the public housing that was supposed to
Now,
be
to be
a
fair, the
federal
Toyotas were like
responsibility. That's part of
specially
why
made by
we
the
have this
French
lead
and had like
crisis to begin with.
state-of-the-art
But I'll tell you what you do
anti-tank
when you're actually in
missiles.
charge of something. I'm in
So
charge of the largest city in this nation. You do not accept the status quo. You fix it. And so we are going into every
We're gonna put them in
one of
camps
those
and separate them
apartments
from
to
their
make
abusive
sure those
families.
children and those families are safe. And then we are going to eradicate that lead once and for all. And there should be a federal mandate to do the same for Flint, for Detroit, for every place in this country.
Thank you,
it
Mr.
can
Mayor.
be done.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Secretary Castro, why are you the right candidate to solve this problem? Please respond.
Well, because people don't have to wonder what I would do. I've actually done it. I was Secretary of Housing and Urban Development when Flint had its water crisis. I went to Flint. We did what we could to help folks.
You didn't
get,
do anything.
Water filters, and then we didn't stop there. We improved the standard of how we deal with elevated blood lead levels in children.
My
A lot of
question, though,
Americans
is
don't know
what
that
are,
this
what are
is
these
still a
candidates going to
major
do
problem
about
out
single
there.
white
I was
moms
back in
not
Flint about
vaccinating
6
their
weeks
kids?
ago, and I released a plan to invest $50 billion
Essential oils are
so that
killing
we
our children.
remove lead as a major
what are they going to do
public
about the
health threat.
Zimbardo
We need to do it, we can
experiment?
do it, and I
When are they
will
going to
do it.
start
What?
talking
Secretary
about
Castro. Donald
chemtrails?
Trump won independence here in Michigan.
Turning the
by securing
frogs
protections percentage
gay.
points, which was critical to Donald Trump winning the state's 16 electoral
I miss
votes.
Alex Jones.
Now there is a big debate within the Democratic Party here and
Isn't
around
he
the
still
country
around?
about the best
Marianne
way
Williamson.
He's still around, but
Democrats
like
can
it's
win
hard
back
to
Michigan.
watch
next
stuff.
Vice
president
President
of the United
Biden.
States of
Last
America.
night on this stage, Senator Elizabeth Warren said, quote,
Okay, she
"We're not
needs
going
to.
to
Her
solve the
platform
urgent
needs to be
problems that we
making
face
evangelions,
with small
making
ideas
Evas
and
real.
spinelessness. We're going to solve them by being the
She's gonna
Democratic
start
Party
Nerve.
of big structural
Yes!
change.
Fuck
You
the
start
Space
to
Force. We need
We worry
Nerf.
that your proposals are not ambitious enough to energize the
Donald
progressive
Trump
wing
caused
of
the
your
an-
party,
the
which
angels
you
to
will
come.
need
Yes,
to
Donald
defeat.
Trump triggered the angel
Because we
invasion.
did it. I was asked to manage an $87 billion plan to be spent in a total of 18 months that revived this state and many others because it kept us out of a depression with 0.2% of waste or fraud. Secondly, I was part of the organization and within our administration that pushed bailing General Motors
bailing out
saving
corporations
tens of
out
thousands
their
of jobs
buying.
here in this state.
Actually, there's a book
Number three,
called
I also was asked as the mayor of
American
Detroit,
Icon that's
Rebellion
really good, which
by
is
the
about
President of the United
the
States to help Detroit get out of
what
bankruptcy
Ford
and
did
get
during
back
the
on its feet.
crisis,
I
and it was
spent
just it's
better
very
part of
interesting.
2
Ford took a
years
very
out here
different
working to make sure that it
way of
did
dealing with it.
exactly that. We invested significantly
Ford
in this
didn't actually
city,
take any
in
bailout money.
transportation, only 20. Anyway, the point is we've made significant investments in this state. I expect in this city. I expect that's why the mayor endorsed me.
Thank you, Vice President
Didn't
Biden.
endorse the senator.
Senator Gillibrand, what's your response?
To the people of Michigan, I know exactly how I beat President Trump. I've already done it. I took a bus tour to talk about Trump's broken promises here in Michigan. He promised no bad trade deals. Not only did he not have
Donald
bad
Trump
trade
will
deals, he
trigger the
started a trade
second
war with
impact.
China,
Yeah,
and
that
he
should
just
be
signed on
the.
to another bad trade agreement with NAFTA
Make
2.0,
Saleh great again.
a giveaway to drug companies in Mexico. I took the bus to Michigan, to Ohio, and to Pennsylvania, telling people that he has broken his promises to them. I lifted up their voices, I listened to their concerns, and I offered real solutions. And I've done this before. My first House district I ran in was a 2-to-1 Republican district. I won it twice, and I haven't lost an election since.
Most
So I
people
can
that are
bring
not
people
that are
together in
Republican
red,
fucking
purple, and
hate
blue
you.
areas.
Thank
but
you,
more
Senator
than that,
Gillibrand.
I can get things done.
Mr. Yang, in poll after poll, Democratic voters saying that having a nominee who can beat President Trump is more important to them than having a nominee who agrees with them on major issues. And right now, according to polls, they say the candidate who has the best chance of doing that, of beating
just
President
look at
Trump,
him.
is Vice President Biden. Why are they wrong?
Well, I'm building a coalition of disaffected Trump voters, independents, libertarians, and conservatives, as well as Democrats and progressives. I believe I'm the candidate best suited to beat Donald Trump. And as for how to win in Michigan and Ohio and Pennsylvania, the problem is that so many people feel like the economy has left them behind. What we have to do is we have to say, look, there's record high GDP and stock market prices. You know what else are at record highs?
All right, yeah.
Suicides, drug overdoses, depression.
Oh my God, he's
anxiety.
talking
It's gotten
about
so bad,
real
American
issues.
Life expectancy has declined for the last
Fucking
3 years.
base.
And I like to talk about my wife who's at home with our 2 boys right now, one of whom is autistic. What does her work count at in
Oh
today's
my
economy?
God.
0. And
He
we know
is
that's
the
opposite of
one.
truth. We know that her work is among the most challenging and vital. The way we win this election is we redefine economic progress to include all the things that matter to the people in Michigan and all of us, like our own health, our well-being, our mental health, our clean air and clean water, how our kids are doing. If we change the measurements for the 21st century economy to revolve around our own well-being,
Thank
then
you,
we
Mr.
will
Yang.
win this election.
Congresswoman Gabbard, your response?
Donald Trump won this election because far too many people in this country felt like they've been left behind by both political parties, by self-serving politicians on both sides who are more interested in partisan politics than they are in actually fighting for the people. I'm speaking the truth to people all across this country about the fact that people in Flint, Michigan are still being left behind, still being poisoned by the water in their system, because every single month we are spending $4 billion on a continuing war in Afghanistan, $4 billion every single month, rather than ending that war, bringing our troops home and using those precious resources into serving the needs of the people here in this country. People and communities like Flint. That's the kind of leadership that I'll bring.
Congresswoman. Senator Booker, your response?
I'm grateful, Jake. Look, this is one of
What
those
are the
times
odds
where
that he's
we're
on
not
crack?
staring at the truth
Wait, what?
and calling it out.
What
And
are
this
the
is a
odds
case
that
the
Cory
Democratic
Booker
Party,
is
the
on
truth
like
will set us
drugs?
free. We lost
I still think
the
he's
state
more
of Michigan
robot than
because everybody
90%.
from Republicans to Russians were
Since it's
targeting
winding down,
the suppression of African
who do you think
American
has
voters.
won?
We need to say If the
Mommy
African
GF.
American vote in this
I
state
think
had been
that
like it was
Biden
4 years
actually
earlier,
won
we
by
would've
being
won the
on
state of Michigan.
on the
We need to
screen
have a
more than
campaign that
everyone
is
else.
ready
can
for
vote.
once
I actually
Because they
think
all
Biden
attack
did a
on
lot
the
better
polls.
this
especially
time.
on the most
Yeah.
valuable voter group in our, the fact the highest performing
women,
voter
yeah.
group in our
I
coalition,
actually think
black
Biden
women.
was able to
And so I
defend
would be a
himself, and I
person
don't think they
who
really
tries to
hit him
fight
as
against
hard.
voter suppression that can activate and
What about
engage the
Har-
kind
what
of
do- what do
voters
you think about
who
Harris?
coalitions are going to win states like Michigan and Pennsylvania and Wisconsin.
Thank you, Senator Harris.
First
Oh,
of
she's
all,
going full black
Donald
woman
Trump came in making a whole lot of promises to working people that he did not keep. He said he was going to help farmers. He said he was going to help
My
auto workers.
soybean.
Farmers are now looking at bankruptcy, soybeans rotting in beds.
Yes,
Auto workers, we expect perhaps hundreds of thousands will be out of jobs by the end of the year. Jerome Powell just dropped the interest rates, and he admitted why. Because of this so-called trade policy that this president that has been nothing more than the Trump trade tax that has resulted in American
Fuck
families
workers.
spending as much as $1.4 billion more a
Where are
month on
white
everything
women
from
getting the
shampoo to
avocados?
washing machines. He betrayed the American people. He betrayed American families, and he will lose this
You
election
betrayed me. You
because
betrayed the
folks are
trust I
clear
placed in you,
that
but
he
you
has
betrayed
done
me just
nothing
like my
except
father
try to
did.
beat people down instead of lift people up, and that's what we want in the next president of the United States.
Thank you, Senator Harris. The debate is back right after this short break.
No, I don't think it's gonna be. I think I'm done for the night.
You
to be
sure?
honest.
You don't want to just see what you don't want to just listen to their closing statements?
No, I think I'm good.
You want to talk at all after this?
No, I have to go to work tomorrow morning, so
Okay.
I think I'm gonna
Alright,
end
well-
it here. Thanks guys for coming on. For those in the chat, please check out my friends' channels below in the description. We have Serp, we have Fritz Imperial and
You
Charlemagne.
spelled my name
Fuller.
wrong.
Whatever.
I'll try and have a new video out at some point.
Thank you, do-gooder. I'm going to make a huge backlog of videos and then release them over the next few months.
Right. You'll hopefully have more time soon.
Yeah, that's possible, but I focus most of my time on writing, so I'm shifting it to videos for a little while to have a
They're
big
spelling the
backlog.
N-word in the chat now. I think we should stop.
Okay. Well, good night, everybody. God bless you. As always, this is Argent.
Thanks so
We
much.
must
guys.
descend.
Good night.